Good evening, Mayor. It's now 6:30 p.m. Are you ready to begin?
Thank you. Yes, we are ready to begin tonight's meeting. Let's have the recording start.
Recording in progress.
Wonderful. Thank you. This is the call to order. Good evening and welcome to the regular meeting of the Petaluma City Council and the Petaluma Community Development Successor Agency for Monday, July 17th. If you wish to provide public comment on tonight's agenda, please fill out a speaker card at the back of the chamber and bring it to the clerk. They look like this. And I will now invite Monica Aparicio and Maria Galvez to provide information to those who want to participate in Spanish. Do we have a connection with our translators?
Maria or Monica? Thank you, Maria.
Yes, I am here. Mónica might be having trouble connecting. Buenas noches a todos. Mi nombre es María Galvez. Estoy aquí con mi pareja de interpretación, Mónica Aparicio. Vamos a presentarles a ustedes la traducción simultánea. Si ustedes están utilizando un computador, al lado derecho de su pantalla, en la parte de abajo, va a aparecer un globo. Por favor, presionen el globo, escojan elección de idiomas y elijan el canal español. Si están utilizando un teléfono, por favor, entonces pongan la palabra, los 3 puntos más interpretación de idiomas y elijan el canal español. En este momento, por favor, presionen el globo o los 3 puntos y elijan el idioma español. Gracias. We are...
Wonderful. Thank you. And now may we have our roll call for the evening.
Barnacle,
Here.
Cater Thompson,
Here.
Healy,
Here.
Now,
Here.
Posake,
Here.
Shribs,
Here.
and McDonald.
Here.
All members are present.
Thank you very much. Let's stand and take the Pledge of Allegiance. And a moment of silence. And regarding the agenda for this evening and deletions or changes to the agenda, I'm looking up and down the council dais. Item 5 on our agenda this evening will be removed from the consent calendar and instead be presented on August 2nd. That's the recycled water Ellis Creek item. So with that, I think we can begin our evening's presentations. And first off tonight, we have the North McDowell Complete Streets Project update. Very exciting. And I'd like to invite our Public Works and Utilities Director, Christopher Bolt, to introduce the item.
The light is green. There we go. Thank you very, very much, Mr. Mayor McDonald, and good evening, council members. We're delighted this evening to present an update on our North McDowell project. We've been hard at work since awarding the contract last fall, and staff has many exciting things to share this evening with you. So tonight we have our senior traffic engineer, Ken Eichstedt, seated next to Jeff Stutzman, our city engineer, who will lead the presentation this evening. Go ahead, gentlemen. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mayor McDonald, council members, the public, and the staff. This has been a long time coming, and we're not finished yet, but it's good news. At least I hope it is for you. I think it will be, so. So as we talk about the North McDowell Complete Streets project, I just want to emphasize we've really listened to the community, and there's a slide in particular that shows that. And since our last public workshop, which was in May, and the council award of the construction contract back in October of last year, we've really done a lot. But we want to focus on the work that has been done. We want to focus also on traffic calming, the active transportation elements and the transit improvements, trees and landscaping, overall the safety improvements along the corridor, and then provide you with a summary. So in the project overview, the key project goal is safety. Safety for all the users along this 1.75 mile corridor. So in doing that, we need to rebuild the pavement structure. We need to improve the active transportation and transit facilities. We need to find ways of minimizing the congestion that occurs along the corridor. And then we need to find ways of also enhancing the commercial activity that is in this area. We're taking direct action to achieve our climate goals in this project as we've moved it forward. So the image on the right is part of the is a heat map of the crashes that have occurred, shown in the circle there. And there were significant crash densities along this corridor. So that's a part of the design, the planning design process that went into this project. So looking at the entire corridor from Sunrise Parkway to Old Redwood Highway, 1.75 miles again, we're going to look at one of the areas that I think sort of exemplifies the work that we're going to see in the final construction. So here we have, just north of Ross Street, two key business elements that are there, and we've gone through and taken this area and greatly improved it. Probably one of the most important things that I've, and this isn't the only place that happens on this corridor, but is the pedestrian crossing that we have. So we've got there. So we've got a pedestrian crossing going from Lagunitas to Hen House there. That is going to eliminate, if you had to do a legal crossing, you'd have to go a quarter of a mile in either direction on the corridor. So putting that in, we're filling the sidewalk gaps. We've put in directional curb ramps that are there, and we've put in the bike lane. So the community engagement process was extensive. So our communications team has done a lot of work. We've had discussions with PBAC on this, Pedestrian Bicycle Advisory Committee twice. We've done a community workshop twice, and then we've done neighborhood workshop with Petaluma Estates, and we've gone to the tree committee. We've gone out and done door hangers. We've got 4 portable message signs identifying the current construction work that's going on. We did a community information session, so I feel like the outreach has just been stellar on this. We can also, we can always make improvements, but and we'd like to hear about those improvements, but I feel like we've done a very extensive job on that. So the community workshops, we've had a total of 3 of those. And in addition to that, we've advertised with city mailers in the Argus Courier. We've got updated social media, community messaging, and we have gone door to door. There's also an updated web page. Regarding the work that we've completed to date, it's primarily been on the edges, so we've gone and closed the sidewalk gaps. We had to acquire right-of-way to do that work. We've put in curb ramps. We've narrowed the turning radiuses going into the streets, not everywhere, but on the key ones where we could do that, and shorten the pedestrian crossing distances. We put in pedestrian refuge islands. And then we've done the utility upgrades needed to ensure this project will stay untouched, so we're not digging it back up in the near term. So the current work going on, which is kind of the heart and soul of this project, it's very disruptive. We've tried to minimize the impact, but we have to go in and we have to grind the pavement, and we're basically recycling the pavement. So we're not having to haul this material out somewhere. We're hauling it a very close distance. We create a durable base layer for that. It's a 4-step process to recycle this material. So the overview of the road recycling, which has been done before, and fortunately Jeff has got an extensive background on that. We go through and we do the grinding. And then we bring it over to where by the SMART station is, and we process the material with an asphalt emulsion. We use the term CCRP, Cold Central Recycling Plant. That material we create the base layer, and you could almost think of it as a lean concrete mix. That material is then taken out and we do a final paving course on it. So the benefit of this current work in road recycling is the CCRP, Cold Central Plant Recycling method. We reduce the construction traffic dramatically. We don't have to, take it off-site dramatically, like over to the airport. We're doing it nearby. There's an 80% reduction in the greenhouse gases with this, and it creates a new durable pavement base structure. So this is our current contract that we have. It's not the full project, but the current contract has paving, striping, and signal work to continue. And then next up, I wish I could say this corridor will be not impacted by other work, but it will. And we're going to keep moving forward with the landscaping and trees that will be put in. The HAWK system, the high intensity crosswalk signal system, that we're looking at mid to late 2024. That requires PG&E coordination. They're a bit busy right now, but we've been in contact regarding that. We have the Smart Track crossing, which will be in mid 2024.
Excuse me, Ken, I'm sorry to interrupt. Can you please speak closer to the microphone so that the audience can hear? Thank you.
So then we have the Smart Pedestrian Crossing, which is part of their multi-use path. And then the housing development in 2024-25. So the future Smart Track Crossing in green is the connectivity to their multi-use path that will extend from Novato going all the way up to Pengrove and into Santa Rosa. So this crossing is a new signalized crossing. We've got the track panel crossing, which is referred to as the McDowell Boulevard crossing in blue. And they will be doing the paving. We're going to hold the pavement back in this area until they get that work done next year. And then the future Danco development, this is pending funding. So when we go into the traffic calming and safe streets element, I want to give, recognize in this cross section that we've got right of way that's had to be acquired. That was a major effort. We have that right of way, and it's allowed us to go ahead and put in the sidewalk in many places that we had to do with retaining walls. We've got a pedestrian refuge island. We've got the bike lanes, and we've got the narrowed traffic lanes. So when you have a right-of-way width of 64 to 78 feet, in this 1.7 miles, there is a a need to make best use of that right of way. And I feel like what we have before us is that. So I'm going to turn it over to Jeff Stutzman, city engineer.
Sorry, if I could briefly interrupt one more time at the clerk's desk. For the public to be aware, there was a broken Zoom link on the agenda that has been updated. So if you're watching online on cable or on YouTube and you would like to join the meeting on Zoom to provide public comment, the Zoom link has been updated on the agenda and is now working. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. So the big comment that we heard the last time we were here was about a lane reduction or a road diet, transforming the existing North McDowell from 2 lanes in each direction to 1 lane, which we refer to as like a lane reduction or a road diet. Basically, just as it say, it's putting the road on a diet. So over the last couple months, we've hired a consultant to look at the corridor itself and see if that road diet, the lane reduction, is something that is feasible. And by doing that, we did an analysis of the corridor using a system called Synchro, which utilizes existing data, traffic data that we've collected from the field, counts, including traffic data like our signal timing, and then additional data that comes from our traffic detection cameras to really get a full perspective of what the data is out there, how many people are going, where they're going, to really do a good analysis of the intersections to see what the actual impacts are of doing a road diet on an intersection like this. And also one of the benefits, so we originally started this synchro analysis to see what the impacts were, but as some of you have noticed, as you've been driving along North McDowell, we have reduced the lanes down to 1 during construction to really do that paving, to cure out the paving. But by doing so, we've really kind of compared what the analysis has said to really real life, what's happening in the field, to really see what does 1 lane do on North McDowell and how those impacts really affect the corridor as a whole. So the key items on this page I just wanted to touch was that for North McDowell, the average daily traffic is 20,000 vehicles per day, and the truck traffic is 9%. And just remember the number 9% because I'll touch on it on the next slide. So a 5 to 3 lane conversion, as I mentioned, is basically taking those two lanes in each direction and a center turn lane and reducing it down to 1 lane in each direction with a turn lane. We did the synchro analysis to identify what were the impacts, and we also kind of field tested it to really truth that analysis to determine how well accurate the model was calibrated. So with that, the outcome, the analysis really showed that there was significant delay on North McDowell when we converted it from 4 lanes to 2 lanes. And that's mainly northbound and southbound on North McDowell. And when we were looking at it, that is like the morning peak hours and the afternoon peak hours, with the afternoon being the highest impact. Really what the model showed was congestion, and you'll see that on the next slide is how far that congestion really backs up during that peak hours and how it really affects kind of operations on a daily basis. And then one thing that we've noticed, which was interesting to see in the field, is as we've converted it down to 1 lane and watched it, the problems that we've noticed is that the queue or the backup that happens from the signals is that it's starting to back up over the tracks. So we're having a scenario where southbound going northbound on McDowell, traffic is backing up to a point where it's backing up over the smart tracks to where we're having to bring out smart personnel to flag to ensure that people aren't getting stuck or stopped on the track, creating additional safety issues. An additional piece of that construction element is over the last 2 or 3 weeks that we've started paving, we've really heard from the community frustration of the impacts that it's had, because commute has now taken 10, 15 minutes just to traverse this corridor because there's just so much congestion now. Some related to construction, but again, 1 lane and signals are what they are and they can only push through so much traffic. So we're kind of having this point of just gridlock in the afternoon peaks. You want to press play. So as part of the analysis, The synchro analysis comes this kind of model video that shows the existing conditions and the proposed conditions of a road diet, showing in the peak hour, what does traffic look like on North McDowell? So this intersection analysis was Corona and North McDowell, and that intersection was selected because it's kind of the worst case scenario. It's North McDowell, heavy volume, Corona, heavy volume. So we're kind of looking at that worst case scenario. But again, very similar intersection to Old Redwood Highway, Redwood Way, and South Point, in the sense that North McDowell is still carrying that same volume. You're still going to have that same congestion on McDowell at those intersections. Just to note, the difference between the existing and proposed are not lined up in a sense of like a time lapse to where each equal phases are going. So they're a little offset, but I just wanted to point out that on the existing conditions, the one on the left, the peak hour, you really start to see what it is like today, right? You're seeing northbound, southbound phases going, how the backup is, how far it queues, same with Corona. And then on the proposed or the peak hour for a road diet where we reduced from 2 lanes to 1 lane, you really start to see the queue. And as we're kind of in this queue now, you can kind of see the real impact that it's having. You have North McDowell, northbound and southbound, it's backing up beyond the screen. And the model really showed that the backup was causing about half mile plus of what we call queue, which is the backup of cars. One element that I mentioned was the volume of trucks. So we do have 9% volume of trucks, but that's important because if you think about like a UPS truck, a truck going to Lagunitas, going to a brewery, they're long, they're 65 feet, and that's about 3 or 4 cars. So when you have 3 trucks, that could be 8, 10 cars equivalent. So the backup really is a combination of vehicles, trucks, all adding, trying to get through the intersection. And the other element is that at this congestion, you can adjust the signal timing, but you can only do so much with it. You can change, like right now, if we look at the existing condition, the max for that phase is 50 seconds. So that's 50 seconds that northbound McDowell is going to get green to get through. You can increase that, say to 80, but all you're doing is kind of shifting the problem. So you're shifting that problem onto Corona because now those people on Corona are going to wait now 80 seconds. So there's only so much you can do with timing when you have such a large queue of vehicles that you're trying to push through an intersection. And also with that is it kind of pushes that smart problem now on Corona because now we have cars on Corona backing up over the tracks. So as you get kind of, I keep going back to the road diet photo on the right. We're just watching that video. I'm not sure what time we're on, but it's really that southbound coming down towards Corona. It's really backed up. You could see how long it's backing up, and the longer that left turn pocket goes, more people stack up. So it's just kind of a diagrammatic video of just how the queuing really looks. And I said during construction, what we saw really mimicked this. We saw the congestion, the delay backing up over the tracks, the long queues, and the frustration that's happening. And if you want to just scoot it to 4, right there. Yeah. Again, you can kind of see it. And I think what is noted on this 4-minute time shot is that traffic is backed up off the screen. So it's kind of the model could only predict so much to a point where the queue is so long that it's kind of infinite. It just keeps going to some point. So it's just really showing you how much cars are going to get backed up at these intersections. And then finally, just conclusion of all that. I mean, it's with the signal timing and the delay that was shown, it's about 3 cycles for people to end up really getting through the intersection. So it really depends on when you arrive at this intersection. But again, if you're thinking if the intersection for that phase is 50 seconds of green, you're sitting there for 3+, there's 150 seconds, almost 3 minutes that you're going to sit there. So time adds up to do it. And again, this was verified in the field, just kind of calibration of the model to see how accurate it really was. And kind of the complaints that we've seen from the community has been equivalent to 10 to 15 minutes of added time added to everybody's commute to just try to get through this piece of North McDowell. And the big one in the middle that's in red is the safety issues of SMART. I mean, that's a big one. We never want cars to back up on the track. We never want them to get to a situation where the train's coming, the tracks are coming down, and you have a backup and nobody can get out. So that's why during construction we had flaggers to just absolutely avoid that issue. And the last one is congestion and backup. The model really did show about a half a mile plus of congestion and backup. And then it does impede emergency vehicles, and it depends where on the corridor, because some have a center turn lane that emergency vehicles can use. Again, that could be used by people trying to skirt traffic to get to the left turn lane at Corona. There's other areas where there is no turn lane, that there's just congestion that an emergency vehicle would have to go in the opposite or oncoming lanes. And then finally, the frustration that we've heard from the community. And basically diversions, trying to find alternative routes through the neighborhoods and kind of cut through traffic from it, because everyone's trying to avoid McDowell.
Thank you, Jeff. And I should also note, we've met with SMART on this, and they had to reduce their train speeds from 79 down and have flaggers out there. There was a fair amount of coordination during this. So it was enlightening and kind of verified what was in the model. And I will say that I actually got almost as many complaints from city staff about it than I did from the public, which hardly ever happens because we have great city staff. So, but on traffic calming on this corridor, I mean, we've got a street roadway here that was 40, 50 years old. We're trying to plan for the next 40, 50. How do we do that in an intelligent way to move that forward? So, we've narrowed the travel lanes to encourage lower speeds. We've got, Jeff has been working very extensively on the full signal system. In fact, I've walked with Jeff and the traffic consultant all the way from Eli all the way to Old Redwood Highway. And so we want to find ways through coordinated traffic signals to limit the speed. The rectangular rapid flashing beacons, RRFBs, these can help warn drivers as they approach crosswalks of pedestrians and to help lower the speeds. And we're going to go into a Hawk system for that. We just couldn't do it in this particular contract, but that will be happening. And then we've got canopy trees to encourage slower vehicle speeds. How does a canopy tree slow vehicle speeds? Well, I use it as kind of visual clues and just trying to create a driving corridor there that has more edge friction. And trees are something that we need to be planning. If you're out in the desert, you don't have any visual clues that you're necessarily going as fast as you are. But if we can, put in canopy trees, landscaping, we'll talk about pylons or bollards, all those things to help kind of encroach in the vehicular area there to help slow the speeds. And that's a FHWA technique for traffic calming. And then the next step is to designate the roadway as a safety corridor and lower the speed to 35. And I've gotten very strong response from Traffic Sergeant Spiller on that. It's something that we want to do. It's Assembly Bill 43 that was enacted, and we can put it into play this year. It just came in June. So with regard to the trees and landscaping, we've had to remove a few trees. We didn't want to do that, but we had to get the sidewalk in there. But in going through that exercise, we found out we have a potential of putting in 150 trees. So we have done a treescape design for the entire corridor. I have the full sheet layout and details to do that work. It's separate from this project, but it's something that's very tangible and realistic to do. I've met with Relief and have been very appreciative of their input. They've got some great folks involved and very passionate about it. And so they've helped to refine that treescape, those treescape plans, and identify other types of trees to put in there that they want to see. And I will say that we have planting underway. So again, we've got treescape design done for the entire corridor. We've got the details of how to correctly do this. So we've got no shortage of examples of trees that were planted with very good intent over the past, but we need to do a little bit better job. And so we, are taking the initiative here for the next 40, 50 years to improve this corridor. We've got root barriers, tree bags to help with watering. Once we get them established, we won't need to be watering them. So, and then I've been working with our environmental department, Chelsea Thompson and Danielle, to look at who are the highest water users. If we have to replace the trees and the irrigation impacted, we don't want to be putting back the same old. So what can we do? So we've been collaborating with property owners if they don't have to be, mowing and blowing and maintaining turf. They want to save water, save money. We can put in drought-tolerant landscaping. So I feel that that's been a very big benefit on this project. We targeted, the higher water users. So that work is definitely going on. I've made this, a strong pitch, and property owners, for the most part, are going onto that track. So here's sort of before, after, and I will say a couple of things with regard to the after. The green paint is not going to be quite as extensive or as bright as shown. But I was hoping for a little bit closer. The location where we're planting the additional trees was a little bit further south from this. So this is looking by the Petaluma Health Clinic, but there will be more trees in that area. And like I say, we've got the opportunity to plant 150 trees. So this is a video run starting from South Point, moving north. We're going to see some of the pylons. We've improved transit facilities along this. We've improved expanded bus pads and the boarding areas. These pylons that are shown, vertical stanchions, they may also be called. This needs careful design, but we've got a 2-foot buffer where we can put some of that in there. And I point out the 40-mile-an-hour sign, that's going to go down. So, all right, so then going on to the active transportation and transit upgrades. I wanted to make sure everybody's on board with active transportation. So that is walking, biking, rolling, whether it's, somebody pushing a stroller or a scooter, or you may be in a wheelchair. All those is considered active transportation. So our bicycle pedestrian master plan is now called the Active Transportation Master Plan. So some of the work that we've done with pedestrian and transit improvements, and again, we've started from the outside of the corridor, moving in. We've done over 1 mile of sidewalk installation. We've done 47 curb ramps, ADA compliant curb ramps, and 6 of those had bulb outs. And again, the bulb outs help us put directional curb ramps in to make sure if you're visually impaired and trying to cross the street, you're oriented in the correct direction. Very important. The 3 crosswalks that are being installed will have the RRFBs, rectangular rapid flashing beacons, but those are going to be upgraded to high intensity activated crosswalks, or a HAWK upgrade. Basically, a HAWK is putting a full stop condition for the vehicular traffic, for the pedestrian to cross. So pedestrians are going to ultimately have that stop condition. They're going to have a shorter crossing distance. They're going to have a refuge island. So all those are going to improve that experience. Having been down at the Petaluma Health Clinic and seeing people get off transit to try to get to their doctor's appointment, it really brought home the need for that. So, and then we've improved the bus stops and loading areas. So the Hawk installation, that is going to go at the 3 locations, Scott, Clegg, and Sunrise. We put in the foundations and the conduits, but the lead times for the poles and the need for additional design work, it just wasn't feasible to put them in this current contract, but they are part of the Complete Streets project overall. And these are the locations. The blue squared ones are where there's going to be signal improvements. Jeff has been working on that to get leading pedestrian intervals. SMART is going to be doing the crossing on the green circle there, and then the 3 in red are the current that are going to be installed as RRFBs, but will be upgraded to Hawks. Regarding the bike facility improvements, we've got buffered bike lanes, class 2 for 2.3 miles. Those are shown in green. The areas where, as I'd mentioned, the right-of-way width narrows down to 64 feet. We're going to have class 2 facilities on there for 1 mile. And those are north of Corona. So safety improvements, you know, we want to put in something that's more just rather than just buffered bike lanes to get some vertical elements. We're referring to that as pylon buffered bike lanes. Some people may call them vertical stanchions or bollards. We've chosen pylons, but all those mean the same thing. So we're going to be going through that design for their implementation on this corridor. We've got the new ADA curb ramps and sidewalk gap closures as mentioned, and the pedestrian Z crossing, which are the 3 pedestrian crossings with refuge islands. The picture at the top left is what we've done on East Washington across from the airport. And then the green wave, the coordinated signal timing for the corridor. So again, safe streets, #1 priority. And we've got the LPI, the leading pedestrian interval, to help extend safe crossing time for pedestrians and crosswalks. That will be implemented at all the signals. The RRFB and future pedestrian crossings to further protect people in crosswalks. The pylon buffered bike lanes for cyclist comfort and safety. And then the speed limit reduction. So our project timeline, we started in December. Right now we are in road reconstruction. That will be over in approximately a week. We are done with the bulk of the grinding. We're in the curing process for that road subbase. Then we will be going into the final paving course, the signals and the striping, and we see that lasting into October. The trees and landscaping are ongoing, and then in 2024 and beyond, we have the Hawk installation and the SMART improvements. So in summary, you want to do the summary?
I think Ken said it very well from the get-go. I mean, it's safety. I mean, that's really what North McDowell wraps up to, is that the #1 priority for us is safety, from bicycle safety, pedestrian safety, even vehicle safety. I mean, it's all users involved, from the traffic improvements that we've done, from signal work, the crosswalk, the crossings that we've done. We even re-looked at the road diet analysis and just to see if that would be something that would be feasible. And it's definitely not something we would recommend based on the impacts that it would have. But there are other opportunities that we can do to improve the safety along the corridor. Ken and I are looking at doing bike boxes at all the signalized intersections so we can get those bicycles out in front of vehicles to make them more visible. We're even considering future projects to look at kind of bicycle phases to help improve that bicycle connectivity. It's just everything on the corridor is really about safety. It's a big project for the city, and it's coming in multiple phases, as you see. As we slowly wrap up this project, the next exciting phase is going to be smart with the new smart station, with the new smart crossing. So there's a lot still to come and a lot of fun stuff still ahead for the corridor. And then with that, I'll hand it off to Christopher Bolt to close it up.
Thank you, Jeff. Thank you, Ken. Jeff has joined our team for the project. This is a major project, as you know, so he is co-project managing this with Ken. I know the first thing on people's minds, as you saw with the timeline, is when. When is this work going to be done? There's a lot of ruckus out there. There's a lot happening. And as you can see from the timeline, the major work is going to be done in 2 to 3 months here towards October, with the striping finished as well. Some of the other elements will be implemented thereafter under separate contracts. That was strategic on our part. Not every major general contractor is tree planting and things like this are not their specialty. So we felt it was best to partner with local stakeholders to complete some of these items. I wanted to emphasize just 2 quick things as we wrap up. We do implement 5-to-3 conversions or road diets whenever and wherever we can. I think there's evidence of that with recent projects. In fact, we've had ongoing discussions internally as we begin design on future street projects. We always ask that question at the outset. That happened with McDowell. We did look at this prior to embarking on the design, and the initial modeling revealed what we see today and have confirmed. So what has been done since the bid award is a deeper dive, a second look. And we used state-of-the-art software, paid a little extra money to provide that 3D rendering, that animation. It's often done for roundabouts and major freeways and so forth, but we did it for this arterial street in our community. We felt that was very important to do a deep dive internally and make sure that there wasn't a way we could do it. You may recall discussions that traffic counts over 20,000 is a problem when it comes to 5-to-3 conversions. And so our analysis, as you can see, confirmed that. Another thing about that is concerning, and I'm sure you thought the same, was that during peak hour, getting a fire truck or an ambulance through that intersection in particular, but our team has also looked at other intersections, is highly problematic with all that congestion. And so our partners in public safety at the police department and fire department definitely share concerns. So secondly, the second big thing I wanted to say, besides that we took that deep dive, is that we do take safety and traffic calming very seriously. You see many different active transportation elements that we're implementing. I just wanted to emphasize that the pylons as proposed, our plan is to continue to partner with stakeholders in the community in the coming month to refine exactly what types of bollards, where they'll go, what the spacing is. Our staff has recommendations. We've scoured our design standards to make sure we have the right criteria, but we definitely want input and feedback before implementing those. So I just wanted to say thank you, and we're definitely happy to accept more comments and feedback on this very important project in our community. And the last slide here shares a couple of emails. You can also, I just want to point to the first email there where you can sign up for updates. That's our website, and there is a link you can click there to submit comments and share information. And we have received, of course, public comments for tonight's meeting, and we'll be taking those into account as well. Thank you very much.
Great presentation. Thank you very much, team. very much appreciate the focus on safety and paving. I mean, Petaluma needs to get busy on paving, and I think we're turning a corner there. It's really good news. Before bringing it back to council, I would like to announce to the public how comments will work on this. Council will have a bit of a conversation with the staff regarding this, but we will move immediately after that to general public comment, and those wishing to comment on the presentation can turn in a card for that during the general public comment. And you get one card tonight, so if you're choosing to be speaking on one topic or another, use your time wisely. And with that, I would like to bring this back to council and ask if anyone here has a question or comment for staff. Councilmember Shribs.
Okay, thank you. A huge amount of work. I even rode my bike down there, and the cars were able to get around me, even with all that construction work. So that was really nice. So just to see what was all going on down there. So the question I have, I think you did mention you did look at roundabouts within the model. However, looking at like the 3D diagrams that you showed us, the little videos with the amount of cars that were backed up on those intersections, and having driven in England and even in triple roundabouts, which are multiple times larger intersections coming in, I know, and some of the presentations I've seen in videos from engineering from Europe, that the volumes in roundabouts, looking at when you have a road diet of a single lane coming in and a single lane coming in from the other side, when you block it up with basically traffic signals, it really slows down the number of cars traveling through that intersection. Putting in a roundabout, you can at least, what I've heard, double the amount of cars in the intersection at the same time, moving at the same time. And so that your backups, so that using a diagram of road diet with the diagram of using a light signal system where everything's kind of bogs everything down. If you were to put a roundabout in that, a robust one, would it solve some of that congestion that we're seeing in that video? Because I'm thinking it would be more of a solution base. So I thought I'd just ask how that video, if that was tested, and we've seen the videos on that, and see if there is that much backup using a large roundabout system.
I just wanted to clarify, thank you, excellent question, and a valid one, that we did not, to my knowledge, model a roundabout here. To do a roundabout properly takes a tremendous amount of real estate. It has to spread out, it has to have the right spatial elements and so forth. I'll let the team comment on discussions. I'm sure it was discussed as part of design, but we did not actually model that as part of this. I just want to clarify that it can be, our models can be used for that.
Yeah, I'll start here before I hand it over to Jeff. Thank you very much, Councilmember Shribs, on roundabouts, because they're definitely a passion that I have, and Petaluma is kind of leading the charge in the North Bay with doing this. We have 6 that are out there. We're looking at installing more, as well as traffic circles. The two challenges with roundabouts is one is just the geometry. They need a lot of space, and unfortunately, we're fairly constrained. If you look at Corona, we've got the drainage channel, and we've got some very high voltage utility lines, poles that are there that create problems with that configuration. The other element of it is that they typically want traffic that would have a greater differential. Corona doesn't have necessarily 20,000 ADT, but it's pretty high in ADT. And also the truck traffic makes it a challenge. So those are some of the items in looking at doing roundabouts. But I'm definitely with you. I want to see more that are installed. So
I could add too that the good news is a roundabout could be implemented in the future as a separate CIP should it be warranted or necessary. And Jeff, you were going to say something as well?
And like Christopher said, we didn't do an analysis of a roundabout here, but we've looked at other intersections. And as an example, like Caulfield and Lakeville, we looked at very high level preliminary, what would it take to do a roundabout there? And it is a 2-3 leg roundabout. So they're very large. And to both their points, it takes a lot of real estate to make it work. But it can move the volume. It's a give and take.
on that particular corner especially, because we have the creek, the floodway that's there that could be easily covered and increasing that space in that location. We have still the smart station still to be in, so we could take up a corner there. And the other corner is basically some workshops, everything, and I think we could probably even grab some space from them if we really needed to do that much more than that. So that's what I'm thinking, that particular intersection, I think there is enough space, so I really would like to see that modeled within the model that you're using. If we were able to do all that, and then look at the traffic pattern at that particular intersection, because that's a critical intersection, just viewing the model that you had, I totally agree that single lane with light systems absolutely is not going to work. But if we turn it around and put the extra money in and extra effort in and move over that, because we already have a road that goes over the floodway, we can expand that. So that would increase the surface area tremendously. And I'm sure we can work with SMART on that corner and the business on the other corner to make that all happen. So I just thought, just model it and see what it goes in and what comes out of it. It'd be interesting to see if that does actually increase flow and reduce congestion.
Yeah. No, I think that's a good idea because I want to see more roundabouts put in, and I've gone through and looked at the geometry, so we can definitely do that and give some I think very constructive advice in what the reality of doing that is, because this isn't going to be the first time that this question comes up, and we want to try to look at all the different intersections. The greenhouse gas reduction of putting in a roundabout or a traffic circle and not having an all-way stop or a stop condition is 20 to 30%, greenhouse gas reduction. So we would love to have these all over the place. And
Right, and I can possibly see from a speed reduction, having a roundabout actually gets folks to slow down before and after. So that might help instead of just stop and then they want to go. Okay, let's, switching gears a little bit. I think I've asked this before, and is there any, just so that the folks know, is there any way we can charge or put fees on the truckers using the road so that we have some funding for enhancements and repair work that is being, because we know that the trucking traffic there was the major cause of some of the damage to the road. Is there any way of collecting any fees or monies from either the truckers or the interstate that allows the trucking to occur on that route?
Most of, as of now, all those fees that are collected is going into the gas tax. So like SB1, where that money that we get to fund street road construction is coming from SB1, which is gas tax coming from diesel, gas, all those. I'm not sure if we were to,
I was just going to say that I've looked into this before, and not here in Petaluma, but elsewhere in my other work. And when it's not an official toll road, it's extremely difficult and or even prohibited. You're at risk of losing federal funds or other grant dollars that may have been used for a project if you were to charge such fees. We can look into it. It's a good question and do a little further analysis. I'm sure we can phone a friend, so to speak, and get an answer quickly.
Yeah, I suspected that was going to be the answer, but I just wanted to have it said again so we hear it again about the trucking the fees where more money could be approached from both folks that are actually using the road. That's all the question I have, because I asked lots of questions and they were answered in your prior email messages back today. So that was really nice to have that much information coming back so quickly from you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Now.
Thank you for the presentation. When you go into a roundabout, as Councilmember Shribs, it's yellow striping to slow the traffic down as you go in. And as you come out, it's a calming color. And the way it was explained to me 14 years ago is that it's angled so that drivers drive slowly. Our illustrations show it in that bright green. I'm glad you said it's going to be toned down. Who chose that green instead of yellow color?
Thank you very much, Councilmember Now. The green is a MUTCD, Manual for Uniform Traffic Control Devices, Manual on Uniform Traffic Control Devices. And we're required to, that's the color that identifies conflict zones that are in the bike lanes. So that green is very prescriptive in how we apply it. And I think it's a good visual clue to drivers and bicyclists that there's crossing movements or some movement there that you need to be aware of. So that's the purpose of the green. You could do some sort of diagonal medians that would also kind of frame that, but the intent here is because that's where the bicyclists are going to be. You want to identify the conflict zone. That's how the green paint is used. It's very, like I say, it's done in a very careful fashion in how we apply it and how we use it. So,
And universally, yellow is also a reflective color, and the yellow means slow down. So what happens at night to that green color?
Well,
Does it turn dark, or
Yeah.
is it reflective?
No, it's a very good question. And so what happens, the paint, and whether it's a latex type or whether it's thermoplastic, those are two different types. The city of Petaluma primarily uses thermoplastic, and that's put down with glass beads. So whether it's white, yellow, or green, it's all going to have glass beads which provide for the reflectivity. So it's going to be reflective and visible in lights.
And the same with the bollards, they'll be reflective because the color green at night, I didn't know what they would do.
No, yeah.
And I could just see a nighttime driver hitting one and causing an accident.
Yeah. No, I mean, that's a fair question. It's everything. Reflectivity is a key part of any element you put in the public right of way if you're trying to bring awareness to, the movement of the vehicle or delineation within the right of way.
And just like the paint striping is reflective, yes, the bollards or pylons, it's like we like to call them, whether they're a tall, skinny style or what we call a K71, the green ones that were in one of the photos, they have reflective strips that are wrapped around them. So the effect at night, especially with headlights bouncing off, is pretty astounding, especially when they're newer. So it is important after we put these in to be on a rigorous maintenance program, and that is something that we're evaluating as well, because when they get knocked down, bent, damaged, or are no longer reflective, we of course need to get out and replace them and upgrade them.
You also mentioned the safety vehicles or fire and police having issues with the when a safety vehicle needs to go through, drivers need to pull to the right with these, I'm calling them bollards, but with these posts in the side of the road, vehicles aren't going to really know where to go to make enough room for that safety vehicle to go through.
Right. And that's part of spacing. We want to get the right spacing so that a car could actually pull in if they needed to.
But then the car's behind them.
Correct.
And the car's to the side of them.
Much like a parallel parking stall. They want to be able to get in and then get back out without hitting the pylons.
And usually there's plenty of traffic on that street. So I'm seeing numerous vehicles trying to all pull to the right with this and let the safety vehicle go through. I was just concerned. And then with having a pedestrian corral in the middle of that as well, I was just seeing potential problems because the safety vehicle has to go around that pedestrian corral as well.
Sure. As currently designed, there are two driving lanes. They're narrow. If you caught the widths in there was a 10.5-foot and an 11-foot lane. So those are narrower than your usual lanes, which would help constrict psychologically drivers. And so there is room to clear one lane with the current design. If we were to go with the other configuration that was analyzed, the road diet, the 5-to-3 conversion, we would have the problem you're speaking of. How do the cars weave in and get in and out of the way if there was just a single lane?
So you're still working with the fire and the police to work out these issues, or you're done?
We have worked with them for the current design.
I talk to them all the time,
Okay.
frankly.
Right.
I showed them the whole presentation. Yes, actually, this morning. I went through
Okay.
the whole thing with Sergeant Spiller, the whole presentation, so, yeah. And I do want to say one other item. I mean, you bring up a good point about emergency access and how to, if you got to get over, what Christopher correctly says here is looking at that, at the gaps, the design for that. The other thing is, how do you street sweep? And so, there's.
That was a
We're
question
trying to
too.
put something forward here to, like I say, last 40, 50 years. So these are all things that we can do it, and we just, we can't necessarily do it in the same old ways we've been doing things. So, we all need to be thinking outside the box, and that's what I feel like we're doing on this project, so.
And with regard to
Okay.
street sweeping, we have a proposal in the future to buy a smaller mini street sweeper and or partner with Recology so that they have one too, because we're going to have more of these in the future. I think we all know that.
Okay, those are all my questions tonight, Mr. Mayor. Thank you. Thanks, guys.
Thank you. Councilmember Healy?
Thank you. I can keep this very brief. I appreciate the very thorough and well-researched presentation, and I support what you're proposing there. I think the data supports it, and it's the best compromise we're going to come up with. And I'm particularly happy with the pedestrian crossings and the pedestrian islands. I think that's been a challenge for the community for a long time, and I'd love to see the speed limit lowered up there. So thank you for the great work. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Barnacle?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, staff, for the presentation. I agree with Councilmember Healy's comments about appreciating the pedestrian crossings. My question is that 1 mile stretch that's going to be Class 2. There's a shared left turn lane there. Is that correct?
It's a two-way, the shared left turn lane southbound, turning onto eastbound Corona. Is that?
You want to bring that slide up?
Yeah. I just, one minute here. I'll come back in this.
Just where the Class 2 is, it's going to be 2 lanes in each direction and the shared median in the center, right? So essentially five lanes. Yeah, that's it. So I guess my question is, how important is it to have cars turning left on and off of across 2 lanes like this? And could we just say no lefts on or off of on this area for this stretch? And certainly it would reroute traffic, but also just noting that we just had a fatality with a car coming down, or a motorcycle coming down, and a car turning left. I think one of the things that caught me, or that kind of sent this back for another look, was another accident that was caught on the bus camera with a pedestrian that was with 2 lanes in each direction. And so I just know that, like, with 40-mile-an-hour traffic and bicycles and the smart station and increase in people, the bike share program that's, has an RFP right now. I imagine the second smart station is going to be a location for that. It feels like we're going to probably see more people biking in this stretch, and 40-mile-an-hour traffic and bicycles doesn't really scream safety like the rest of the design. And so I'm wondering if we could make it so that you don't turn left from the cross streets. You can only go right, and you don't turn left off of McDowell for that stretch, so that we could have protected bike lane for the entire stretch.
One element with that two-way left turn lane, I see what you're trying to do, and one of the things that would also need to be looked at is the truck traffic. So this particular image here has UPS and the Postal Service. They will come southbound on North McDowell and use that to turn into their facilities, as well as northbound traffic, turning into Rand or Clegg or Scott streets. We could look at that and try to free up that space. It doesn't. I don't think it'll come easily to remove that. But that's something we could definitely take a look at. Yeah.
Yes, I agree. It's something we can look at, and we will do that. It's an interesting idea.
Yeah.
We can explore that.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Yeah, I don't know how it would impact the truck traffic, and I certainly don't want to create more headaches in this already busy stretch of road. I just feel like this is going to be, here for the next 15 or plus years, and we're going to see more bikes on this stretch. And I just don't want to see any accidents or collisions in this area on that stretch, and know that we didn't look at everything. So appreciate the presentation, and what I really appreciate is, I know we approved this project, and I appreciate you continuing to work on, making it safer.
Thank you. And Councilmember Pozike.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to voice support for a couple of comments already made. One is the one we're just discussing. But yeah, I'm just not close enough. Am I close? That's better. I want to support Councilmember Barnacle's request to look at a way to get bollards on that 1 mile. And certainly, I know there's no simple or easy way to do it. I think there's a lot of things difficult about what we're asking, and certainly I'd also, though, put in support since it's seeming to be better received than once when I brought it up with some of the engineers at the very beginning in terms of a roundabout being even something we could even consider. So if there's a will, and I don't know if it's going to cost 3 times as much to do, a roundabout, and then there may be other constraints on us, but I'd like to look at that as well as, just the roundabout and the bollards between Corona and Scott. Thanks.
Thank you. And I do want to have a word of appreciation for staff. They never used the word accident once in all of the terms about collisions. I know that's nuanced that we say crash and collision. We don't say accident. I do have to say, though, that I nearly got run over tonight at Howard and Washington at a signalized intersection, on foot. It's important that we do these safety things, but it's not the end all either. You still got to stay with your eyes open everywhere. I really do appreciate that the sidewalks have now been extended on both sides of the street so the pedestrians have access. We focus a lot on bicycle, but pedestrian access is key through here, especially through the health center area. And now we have contiguous, so that's really good. And a former council person just said, I hope our troubles are that the complaints are we're doing too much construction, that we're paving too much too fast. And I have to concur with him. I really want to see us get this job done and get on to the next jobs and get those done and fix our streets so that they are safe for all modes of transportation. I note that on Caulfield, I think we are now considering a road diet from the freeway all the way to Garfield or so, where it's 4 lanes now, 4 to 5 lanes now. That's the next road diet on the proposal. So it's good that the public knows that that's not an off-the-table item. It's an on-the-table item, and I'm sure that'll have bike lanes with pylon protection, buffer protection. So that's important. It is fun to know that county is now going to put in a roundabout at the Tin Barn as you head down Lakeville. And so, I mean, roundabouts are getting to be a thing that gets done around here. I know that if we proposed it for this project, it would add $1 million into the budget to do that, and it would take years of design time and public process to get that. And so I hope we would analyze for a different day, a different time, and not impede this project getting to the finish line, because I think it's super important that this project get to the finish line. It also concerns me that we have limited staff resource, and the longer we continue to redesign here, the less we get to the next big thing. And there are so many safety improvements we need in town. And I know, I hope staff can keep a little bit of pressure on SMART. I note in their minutes to their last meeting, they said that they would bid their improvements in July, and in our staff report, it says they'll bid them in October. And really, I just feel like I'm at an auction for month of achievement. I am super excited about adding the 150 trees. And I'm excited about City Threads. The city retained a consulting firm to say, how do we achieve more bike safety faster? And probably our public will chime in on this tonight. But the answer was build a few things and let bikers have a good time, and then you know, they'll support the rest of the program. But build a few things, get out and get in front of it. So we need to complete this. We need to get it done. The other comment I'd like back from maybe staff or maybe more some of our informed public is I'd like some of our buffers maybe to have a little grind to them, that little weave that we see. Not a full rumble strip like you see on shoulders of roads, but just enough to keep a car from forgetting that non-buffer or even the buffered zones, you know, that they get a little wheel indication right away. And I don't know what the cost impact would be on that, and perhaps that's a bad idea, but we have a lot of informed people to get me more educated on that topic tonight. Yeah, that's this is a real good project. I'm real glad we're coming to the finish line. I just love saying coming to the finish line on projects. And so now, as I mentioned earlier, we will thank staff for this presentation. Thank you very much. It's been a great presentation. And then if the public wishes to comment on this, general comment is now the thing coming up. And
Excuse me, Mayor.
yes.
I believe the Vice Mayor would like to speak on this item.
And let's invite Vice Mayor Janice Cater-Thompson in. My apologies, Janice.
Thank you. I thought you were forgetting about me, but that's not true. I want to support Barnacle looking at the ballards. And also, I just want to support John as far as the roundabout. Maybe not, I don't know if it would be in this phase, but look at how that can actually, I'd like to see measurements for that. I also know the traffic really has choked, you know, when the lanes were choked down, traffic is pretty bad on McDowell, but I still want to go talk about speeding cars. We have speeding cars with loud mufflers, pickup trucks with very wide tires, which is illegal, as you know, when they go past the wheel well. And this is all dangerous for not just bicyclists, but for driving in general. And I'd really like to see our police department have a plan to address the speeding cars. It's not just on McDowell, but it's all around this town. And I get a lot of complaints about that. I do want to know more about the crossing at the mobile home park. I see that SMART is going to be doing that. So can I get a little bit more information on when we expect that to be done? Because I feel as though they were promised a safe crossing, and that's not in the plan as far as the city providing it. So I want to know more about that. But I really think we need to also look at truck traffic. There's so many trucks that get off at McDowell that go to the post office. And it's time that they stay on the freeway and they get off at Old Redwood Highway instead of the road's just going to be degraded quicker. And it's unsafe with the truck traffic. And the post office, I believe, probably gets 150 to 200 trucks per day. So those are my comments, but I really am pleased that the sidewalks are are there so people can be safer and that the crossings are there. So I think overall the project is very positive. And thank you very much to the staff and for the council. Thank you.
And thank you. Back to you, Christopher Bolt.
I can add one response to one of the comments, and maybe Ken and Jeff have something to add. But with regard to the roundabout, it has crossed my mind that as we look at a possible reconstruction of Corona in the future, there have been concerns brought up before about Corona and what's its future hold. We are doing a feasibility study of the bridge over 101 for pedestrian and active transportation enhancements. It's just a feasibility study at this point, but we did receive a grant from SCTA for that work. So in the next year, we're going to know a lot more about what's recommended there for the bridge, and that might inform what we do for all of Corona. And then, of course, the intersection with McDowell is going to be something in consideration as well. So it could be part of that. I don't know if you wanted to address, Ken or Jeff, the mobile home crossing timing. I know you're in constant coordination and communication with SMART officials.
So the SMART project, it's two separate projects for the SMART station and the crossing, but it's going to be bid the same time. So I think it's July, August when it's going to get bid and awarded, and they'll move forward with that crossing. So as you guys drive McDowell, you'll see it's complete except for a portion right there over the tracks. We left it kind of existing, so when SMART comes in, they'll put in a new crossing. It'll be a signalized intersection, just like you see anywhere else where it's red, green, yellow. It'll be interconnected into our system. It'll be connected to SMART, so like full functionality of the station and with the tracks and all that. So a lot of good improvements still happening, and a safe crossing there as well for the mobile home park.
Mr. Kevin, can I have a follow-up question on that?
Absolutely.
So you talked earlier about how all the electrical was put in so we won't have to tear up the roads again. Has the electrical been put in for that crossing so we don't have to tear the road up?
For all the uncontrolled crosswalks where we're proposing hawks, all the conduits, all the foundations have been put in, so it's ready to go to where we don't need to go in. And then for the SMART section, we didn't pave that. We left that, I think it's like at 200 feet north and south of the track unpaved. So then when SMART comes in, they'll put in the new signal, new power, new conduits. They'll redo their track crossing, and then when they're all done, they will pave out the road so it matches ours. So then it's one complete corridor, and we're not digging up any of the new road to do this work.
So this will happen simultaneously with the new SMART station, so it could be 2 years out? Is that reasonable to say?
I can't tell the exact timing. I could ask SMART and get back to you on that one. I suspect that the actual crossing signal crossings are be a much quicker process than the station, but it kind of comes up to the contractor and their kind of scheduling of their trades and their process to be most efficient. But I can get back to you on kind of more exact dates that SMART's thinking.
We can tell you that SMART is moving along expeditiously. You have weekly meetings with SMART officials. I was part of the design consultant selection process, and their schedule was definitely in earnest, and we informed them of our schedule with our project. So they're doing their best to time their project in concert with ours. Without, if you were doing all of that at once, it could be even more disruptive. So even though we would love to have it done.
Thank you. Okay. Thank you for the presentation, wonderful presentation. And we'll move on now.
Thank you.
To our general public comment. And I have in front of me quite a handful of cards, and I'm sure that I will have a few more online folks who wish to weigh in. And we try and keep this to 20 minutes. And so we will be dividing up the time. So looking at the cards, I see cards that have general public comment or specifically presentation comments, and then I see mobile home park or rent as others. And let's see, we have a second reading, item 3 of the ordinance, And I'm wondering if those are really for our consent calendar opportunity for comment rather than our general time right now. So I'm actually going to read through the names, and if I hear you say 3, then I will put you in the consent calendar public comment rather than in the general public comment right now. This is important because people want to have enough minutes to speak, and they don't want to be confused and have the wrong ones. So let's see. I have the first one I am going to ask about would be Martin Contreras. Just 3. Good. Thank you, Martin. Joshua Lincecum. Thank you. Angela Cruz. Thank you. Chris Cornelia. We'll put that in the not 3. And then Kay Poland. Thank you. And Jody Johnson? 3. Thank you. Daryl Pike? 3. Thank you. Jay Stewart? 3. Thank you. Betty Houtenrader? Did I hear a 3? Thank you. And Laura Bennett? Thank you. That's right. Okay. And Peter Chernoff, 3. So let's see. I have how many cards? While I count, why don't I ask our clerk if we've had general public comment prior to tonight's meeting?
Yes, Mayor, we did receive general public comment, and we have 5, and those are posted online with the agenda.
Thank you very much for that. And I have 9 general public comments, so we're getting very close to a bigger number. Let's ask for the Zoom announcement to be read to our public.
At this time, I will start a 30-second clock for general public comment. Members of the public attending in person should bring their speaker cards to the clerk's desk if they have not already done so. Members of the public attending online should raise their virtual hand or press star 9 if participating by phone. All speakers are reminded to be respectful in their comments and that this meeting is being translated. Please pause between sentences for translation. A countdown will appear for the convenience of the speaker and viewers. Mayor, we have 6 hands raised.
Thank you very much. That's at least 15. And to keep this at somewhere near 15 minutes, we will have a 1 1/2 minutes clock set for the evening. And so let me begin by inviting up our in-house speakers, and then we'll go to our Zoom speakers second. So our first speaker tonight is Pete Gang, to be followed by Eris Weaver.
Good evening, Mayor, council members, and senior staff. My public comment is with reference to the North McDowell Boulevard Complete Streets project. I'll try to keep it short. While I appreciate all the work that's gone into it, I have to voice a bit of a disappointment in that the project fails to address the 50 to 60% of our wider community who say that they would ride a bike, but they don't feel safe doing so on our streets as they are. Our main reference is NACDO's Designing for All Ages and Abilities, and in that guide, we are told that when vehicle speeds exceed 26 miles per hour and traffic volume exceeds 6,000 vehicles per day, the only acceptable bicycle facilities are protected bike lanes or shared use paths or bike paths, period. I would have liked to have heard a little bit more description of the future smart path. I fail to see how the design of the roadway, in fact, reduces vehicle speeds. I fail to see how the project truly addresses our climate goals or truly addresses our Vision Zero goals. Thank you.
Thank you. Eris Weaver, to be followed by Bruce Hagan.
I'm Eris Weaver, Executive Director of the Sonoma County Bicycle Coalition. Thank you, Pete, for saying some of what I was going to say so I can say something else. I also came in disappointed looking at the presentation ahead of time with the road diet having gone away, but was cheered by council members Barnacle, Pasquet, Shribs, up talking about other possible ways to address the issues, whether it's rerouting streets or a roundabout or something, because as Pete said, we need those protected lanes. Having, a mile here and a mile here with a protected lane and then a mile in the middle with nothing, like what does that do for the person going through? This project is going to be amazing for pedestrians. It's going to increase the pedestrian quality of experience by orders of magnitude, for sure. Will it make it a little better for people like me who are already going to ride no matter what? Probably not. No, it will for me, but for the people that Pete mentioned, it's not going to get new people on that road. It's not. And I would like to, Ken mentioned planning out for 40 to 50 years. Given your climate reduction goals, your greenhouse gas emission reduction goals, and all these ambitious goals the city has, if our vision of 40 to 50 years from now is half as many cars on the road and 3 times as many buses and
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Bruce Hagan, to be followed by Beth Peck.
Hello, Bruce Hagan. Hi, everybody, with Safe Streets Petaluma. I would like to see us go forward to take Christopher's invitation for the community to work with them and figure out how we can take, whether it's a 5-lane or a 3-lane configuration on that stretch, and make it as safe as possible for, not me, I'll ride it, I've been riding stuff like this for decades, but for my granddaughter who's trailing behind me and she's 8 years old. Those are going to be the people, or people that want to commute to Telecom Valley as I did for 7 or 8 years, but don't. They go once a year on Bike to Work Day. How can we get all of these people out there? What if we were to take that stretch in the middle and after it's paved and everything else is in place, we quick build a 3-lane configuration. We have barrier protected, nice architectural barriers for the bike lanes, and we leave it up for a month and see how many people working with the businesses there, working with Lagunitas, free beer for, no, never mind. But if we can partner up with those businesses and start bringing people out and reducing the traffic, the car traffic volume, and increase the bicycle traffic volume, maybe it'll justify going to a 3-lane configuration, or we'll figure out some way to make 5 work for my granddaughter. Thanks.
Thank you. Beth Peck, to be followed by Peter Cherniff.
Good evening, and thank you very much for your time. I spent 29 years as a professional bus operator, driving primarily charter and contract. I spent 23 years at Golden Gate Transit. I have a lot of experience through a lot of different cities across the entire country. I wanted to speak tonight. I'm going to keep this brief, but I want to let you know that my experience of driving buses on those painted lanes, when it gets wet, they get slippery as all get out. So maybe you might want to find a way to texture that paint. Also, in regards to the roundabouts that we have here in town, some of them are well designed, others are not. Also, from my time of Golden Gate having their bus lot up underneath the freeway in San Francisco, and part of my job for quite a number of years was helping these commercial professionally trained drivers back their buses into parking spots. I guarantee you, I would not trust all of my former coworkers to be able to navigate those roundabouts. So I do have some ideas that might be able to make the changes to the bus, to the city streets more transit friendly, because I've driven these commute services and I've experienced the frustrations of taking the 80 route, the 101, the 74, the 75, and the 76 through Petaluma for many, many years. Thank you for your time. And you have my contact info. Thank you.
Thank you. Peter Cherniff, followed by Catherine Babowski. Okay. No. Thank you, though.
I think she wanted to cede the time to me, so.
Yeah. No.
seconds, twice?
No.
So, here we are in the hometown of Polly Class, and there's a movie playing called The Sound of Freedom, playing right now about trafficking of children. And I got to ask people in general, what groups are speaking against this docudrama? And if you haven't already looked up Detective James Rothstein, Human Compromise, I strongly suggest that you do. The Sound of Freedom, to acknowledge what never is taught in college, being that our nation's system, so truly corrupted, requires only that its thread be disconnected, yes, interrupted, by those of us in the most powerful state, seeking a new start by clearing the slate, realizing our authority through Jehovah. Sound of freedom, be the freedom strike to all spectators who have been waiting to be liberators, an amazing actors and writers guild, general striking, Juega la General, to consensus, for consensus to build. Even law enforcement, our sheriffs, will give these strikers and all of us their truest applause, striking for true freedom to Almighty Creator's Jehovah most truest cause, which is liberty, justice, and freedom. And I have to ask, are Mexicans really Americans? I think they are. And the CSP, the county sheriff, the CSPOA sheriffs will never evict anybody, and they seem to be all about greed. And every war is a banker's war, and they're always based on.
Thank you very much. Next, Robert Hanson should be followed by Josh Lincecum. And Robert, before we start, I have two cards from you, both for general public comment. So,
one of the cards was for the road project that was going on.
And that's general public comment.
Public comment.
And then the other one is also general public comment. It was one speaking opportunity.
Fine.
Thank you.
I can hit them both in my minute and a half.
Perfect. Thank you.
I don't understand why these major road contracts aren't done at night. Our city council should stipulate in our contracts, all work be done at night. If the contractor can't abide by that, he doesn't get the contract. Children, from my comments last week, it's obvious to me from the support I got from the public, I am not in the minority. My views are the majority of the public. We've got a governor who wants to turn the state of California into
Robert,
the national destination.
I'm going to ask the mic to be stopped for a second. We have to talk about things that are within the city council's abilities to affect, and when it gets to the governor or the president, and so long as it relates to matters, subject matters of the city council in general.
I think the health and safety of our children is something our city council.
And so long as you stay focused on how the city can be involved, not on the state or the feds. Thank you. Return.
Again, to continue, our governor wants to turn the state of California into the national destination for abortion, up to and including birth. The national destination
again,
for child
alas,
You're cutting off. He's an American veteran, and you
don't alas,
going to finish saying which may tie into what you're doing anyway.
So the topic needs to stay on city matters, ways we can be involved, not in what someone else.
I understand that, and I will get to that.
Don't lead with the other then. Thank you.
We have a governor that wants to turn the state of California into the national destination for child gender manipulation, both surgically and chemically, to castrate our kids.
It's not seeming
I
to
do
find
not
a
support
nexus.
this.
Can I have them, Mike? Thank you. It's not finding a focus to the. Return the mic. If you stay regarding what your ask of the city is, the microphone stays on.
California to say this will not happen. we will not surgically castrate our children.
And thank you. And alas, Robert, your microphone is off, and we are now at the end of the 90 seconds. I
Robert,
suggest
thank
writing this.
Robert, thank you. Your comment time has ended. If you'd like to submit further public comment, you can email the city clerk and we'll share it with the council, okay? Your comment time has ended for tonight.
Thank you very much.
And I'll just note for you and for others in the audience that the city is powerless to change state law except under its charter power with regard to municipal affairs. So, and those are typically things like land use, contracting, and elections.
So our next
Whether they
speaker-
are or are not, their powers are limited as I just described, and your time is concluded. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Joshua Lincecum, to be followed by Chris Cornelio.
Council members, Mayor McDonald. My name is Joshua Lincecum, and I'm a Petaluma resident. My family and I live along Lynch Creek Trail, and I currently work at a local community health center. I want to start out by expressing my thanks to you and the city staff for all of the work that you've done to make North McDowell a safer place. I know that it's been a difficult task and it's a really busy thoroughfare, so thank you for that. My family uses the bike lane infrastructure of Petaluma on a near daily basis to grocery shop, to go to Friedman's, things like that. And I'm also a bike commuter. I worked for 3 years near the Marin Civic Center, and every day that I worked there, I biked and took the SMART train. So that meant every day for three years, 5 days a week, that's one less car on the highway. Since I've started this new job in April within Petaluma, while I'm closer geographically, I feel very unsafe using North McDowell as a bike route, and that's the only route that I could use to commute to work. So essentially, I would be putting myself in a position where I would be riding alongside cars traveling around 40 miles per hour, which would be unsafe for me. The current Class 2 proposals, I feel like doesn't do enough.
And Josh, that's our 90 seconds. Thank you very much. Chris Cornelia? Not seeing, I will move on. And John Hanania? Yes, indeed. The second car, I might add.
Okay. This is a flyer that was done about Brian Barnacle being bullied. It's on Facebook by I Love Petaluma and Censor. This is very nice picture that was done. I hope they can show it, the camera. He calls me a bully for standing up for what is right and speaking the fact. So let's talk about being bullied. During the election, I was getting a lot of support from people who were making posts on Nextdoor. What did Brian Barnacle do? He talked to some people that if they don't stop supporting me, he's going to launch an attack on my campaign. What do you call that? That's a bully or what? He doesn't want to follow any rules. And Kendall can verify about the signs. You cannot have a sign on your car for campaign or put a banner. What did he do? He had 2 big banners on his gold little Chevy truck for one of the candidate, which is he played very dirty for trying to do 3 candidates to stack up the deck up there on the dais. That's Brian Barnacle to you, okay? He's big bully, okay? So this is, I received endless of messages about how people are trying to do a recall on him. Unfortunately, I have a minute and a half, but this is not over. This is far, far from over. You talk about the...
And thank you. That the 90 seconds is up, and now I'll ask for our Zoom audience to be invited into the conversation.
Thank you, Mayor. Our first speaker will be Sheila B., followed by Veronica O. Sheila, you may now unmute and begin to speak.
Oh, thank you for the opportunity to speak. I just want to say that I appreciate all the comments that have been made, except maybe the last one. But I appreciate the comments on the presentation. I thought they were absolutely fabulous. The general public, I think, that spoke before me really addressed a lot of my concerns. I especially want to say in support of Councilmember Cater Thompson. We got to do something about these trucks. Corona will be a transit center. So people will be bringing their families, their children, whatever there, and we want a tame street. We don't want a bunch of rumbling fast, awful trucks, as well as people who don't know what a speed limit is. And we have to pay attention to that. So I just again say thank you to everyone who's spoken, and especially about biking and understood, because I'm still sidewalk riding on McDowell. And again, thank you so much. And thank you, Petaluma, for electing Karen now for district. Thanks so much. You're all wonderful. Thank you. Appreciate all of you. And thank you, Mayor. And thank you. Bye.
Our next speaker will be Veronica O., followed by Paul G. Veronica, you may now unmute and begin to speak.
So,
Veronica, are you able to unmute and begin to speak?
I just got the notification. Thank you. Good evening, council, community, and staff. I'm commenting tonight on the presentation for North McDowell, and I wanted to just echo some of the comments that were made. Pete Gang and Bruce Hagan about accommodating safety for all modes of transportation in Petaluma, which would mean that we would need to not have a break in our protected bike lanes. And how that gets achieved is, through the community. And I know that this needs to get finished and it needs to, be completed, but let us not be hasty in some of the greater details that are going to last us for 20 years. And we have been given the mandate with our climate goals to have a 70% mode shift. And we have to keep that in mind, and we have to get people out of their cars. So in planning for the future, whether it becomes 3 lanes or a 2-way cycle track, or there becomes protection, however it comes out, we really do need it. And in terms of creating pedestrian safety islands, I think there could be some addition of some green elements, and also getting more creative on our painting within the city.
Thank you, Veronica. Your time has ended. Our next speaker will be Paul G., followed by Beverly Alexander. Paul, you may now unmute and begin to speak.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. Can you hear me all right?
Yes, we can hear you.
Thank you. I wanted to spend a little time talking to you about something I've worked on full time for the last 8 weeks, and it's up in Sacramento, but it does require local attention. A nice letter. We wrote one 2 years ago against a bill, SB 556. We need another letter against a bill, AB 965. Just briefly, this bill by the wireless industry is trying to force cities to be able, for Petaluma, batch 50 or more applications at a time, as many times as they wish. And it's completely unnecessary, and it is bad for cities to have to go through 50 applications or more in less than 60 days. And if you don't get through all the work and all the review, they deem it approved. And so it's called a deemed approved ratchet. This is a terrible bill. It is completely unnecessary. We need your help on that one. Also, there's a federal bill with a little more time on the federal bill, but we need a similar letter to say that we need local control to decide how we would like to do wireless and wireline broadband in our city. and not have it top down to us. This is a quality of life issue, and it's something that's very important that we have supported here in Petaluma. So Mayor McDonald, I'm a subject matter expert. I have an 8-page letter I can share with you, and that'd be easy for you to write a letter based on what I've said in that letter. I'll reach.
Thank you, Paul. Your time has ended. Our next speaker will be Beverly Alexander, followed by Blake Hooper. Beverly, you may now unmute and begin to speak.
Thank you all. I appreciate all the hard work that goes into these meetings, even when I don't agree. I wanted to comment on the overlay zoning. I don't think that's necessary. Our downtown is unique, and if we just do this overlay thing, it will no longer be unique. It will destroy the character of our downtown. We do not need to sell our heritage for a lot of money. These buildings can be, if you want to have tall buildings and more density, a great place to do it would be near the Corona train station. And we could create a whole community there that would really be an excellent idea. And we can still keep our downtown somewhat in character and not look like just any place USA. And the other thing is the question of plastic grass. It's toxic, it's hot. We need to care for our environment, and just remember what is convenient is not always good. Thank you for listening.
Our next speaker will be Blake Hooper, followed by Susan Kirks. Blake, you may now unmute and begin to speak.
Good evening, council members and staff. I just wanted to comment on the previous presentation. I wanted to support Pete, Bruce, and the brake lanes and the importance of maintaining bike and multi-mode safety. I wanted to thank Ken and the staff for a wonderful presentation. We saw that several times at PBAC, and it's been wonderful to see how much that project has evolved and where it is today. I really wanted to support Councilmember Shrib's comments regarding a roundabout. I know we're trying to see this thing through to the end, but I think a roundabout can really help resolve some of the traffic issues that were presented during the report. I also think that the give and take aspect of a roundabout is exactly why it would be beneficial for that area. I also want to support Councilmember Barnacle's points on ballards and bike protections, as well as Vice Mayor Cater Thompson's points with regards to the trucks coming in and out of the post office and our need to monitor their impact on these new fixes for the road, just to see how quickly things start to degrade. And beyond that, I just wanted to thank the staff for really taking the time to focus on tree canopy and coverage. It would be wonderful if we could find more uses of greenways in this project. Beyond that, thank you very much. Have a good night.
Our final speaker will be Susan Kirks. Susan, you may now unmute and begin to speak.
Thank you and good evening. Today, the County Board of Supervisors held a very important meeting to have a final review and tentatively approve our local coastal plan update, a plan that will guide our coastal life, our coastal zone, the health of our oceans, addressing sea level rise, very significant environmental issues for the next many, many years. I wanted to bring this to the community's attention because I believe there will probably be a nice article, informative article in the Press Democrat about today's meeting. And I'd like to encourage all of us in Petaluma to read that if you weren't able to attend the meeting. It was a very long day from 9 in the morning until 6 p.m. this evening with just a couple of breaks. It was really inspiring to be in the presence of so many of our longtime environmentalists who have saved our coastal area for Sonoma County and for our environment. Retired Congresswoman Len Woolsey was there and gave really excellent comments as well. I wanted to also encourage the City Council again to initiate Zoom meeting access for commission and committee meetings and make that a priority. And I wanted to thank everyone who comes to these meetings and gives comments. Thank you.
Mayor, there are no further commenters.
Thank you very much. And that closes the general public comment period for the evening. And what we would like to do now is move on to, to council comments. And I'd like to start with Councilmember Shribs as our first commenter tonight.
Is that the comments about the presentations, or is that?
No, we have closed all the presentation effort. We are on you.
Reports. Okay. Okay. Several things happened just this last week, only 1 week, last Monday. We did have, the police department did have a badge pinning ceremony with 3 promotions, which maybe several of us attended, which is really nice to see everyone show up for that. The police that were on duty showed up, and then they left real quick to get back on duty. It was really nice to, very efficient, but very honorable with all the families present. And seeing the families involved, engaged in that was really wonderful to see. I went over and we had a new visitors magazine. The Visitors Petaluma Center has produced this beautiful, beautiful new magazine. Put a lot of money and effort into it with very professional photographers. So please, everyone, try to pick up a copy of the Visitors magazine, share it out. It shows you all sorts of ways. I didn't even know about many of the places here in town that was in the magazine. So nice to see all the possibilities of shopping and restaurant eating and activities and events to go to here in Petaluma. It's pretty phenomenal. I was at the overlay KGBY meeting about the overlay, and so we did hear a lot of folks, and it was really nice to hear a lot of folks speaking there. And so I attended the whole thing, as did, I think, almost all the council members. I think were also there with several staff. So that was a really nice event to have basically a town hall on the subject. There was also a Montero opening, and the best speaker at that opening was one of the residents. Thought he was very eloquent about the importance of what this was to his life. He said basically he'd be homeless and on the streets if it wasn't for this project at all. And you're really thankful. And several of the residents resonated that comments when I walked around and talked to a couple of the residents. So it is a phenomenal, life-changing event and unit that we've put together there with the help of a whole team of folks to do that, with the Burbank Housing being leading on that. So that was really a wonderful event to attend. I attended a webinar on wind turbines. So apparently our nation and state are trying to move forward with green energy and wind turbines offshore, particularly offshore wind turbines was being presented in this webinar. And there's actually 2 locations here in California that are considering becoming major ports, which are needed for building, constructing, maintaining these large wind turbine arrays. We're talking about 30 plus windmills, 25 miles offshore to do these things. And apparently Humboldt Bay is moving forward with investigations and figuring out what they could do there. That's actually the best spot in California for the wind. And then Richmond Port is a second one that is now considering building out an area that would support wind turbines both around the bay and out in the ocean. Most of these are going to go out. You can't even see them from shore. To do one of these projects was in excess of $200 million. And they're looking at a start date of 2030 as a minimum, maybe later to get through everything. But that seems like the folks that were in tenant office, the engineers, and the research that's being done is moving forward. And that's all about green energy, but we also need to figure out how to store that energy, how to get it here, and is it going to engage our city or not? And what do we want to do about it for the wind turbines offshore? Support it, fight it, whatever. But it's coming, is what the message was. Next one, the Climate Commission met. I'm the liaison for that, and essentially we just had new people show up and became a part of the commission, and now we're looking for input. We had a lot of discussions of topics to go over. I know climate change is huge right now in our general plan and where we're going. We already have actions we want to take, but are generic, and the framework is looking forward to the future and generic. However, our next step is probably going to be a climate adaptation plan. So if you're interested in helping what to do actually next, this year, right now, to help fight climate change and take actions, we need more input as to what to do first. So I'd like to see folks come back and engage. There's only a couple folks in the audience showing at the last couple of meetings. I'm hoping we get a lot more folks to show up and start asking for what they want to see in this next year, and then the next year after that. So starting to prioritize and make things happen. And just as a note, as part of the bike and ped map, there's a map out there, and it's open to the public. I've checked it out, and you can make comments on this map for the bike and ped plan. And actually, they want to close it pretty soon, so it's really important that we all get engaged. Go to that interactive map on the city for the bike and ped map, and give our input exactly to every single street, every single intersection, every single thing that's going on around town. Is how can we improve it for pedestrians and bicyclists and multimodal. This is going to be a really important step to get the input on this particular map right now. And so I'm not sure why there was a deadline on it, but let's everyone get out there on that. And that's my comments at the moment. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councilmember Posake. Thank you. I attended a Transit Advisory Committee meeting where we extended the current contract that the Petaluma Transit Operations has with MV Transportation. And we also heard a presentation on the Petaluma Transit Zero Emission Fleet Transition Plan. Finally, through my position on the Continuum of Care Homeless Action Committee for the county, I had an extensive tour of the living rooms, which is a nonprofit that helps out victims of domestic violence. And this tour, they get by on a very low budget, I would have to say. And I was very impressed with the housing for 32 people that they have often constructed with the equivalent, I'm exaggerating a little to make my point, duct tape and baling wire. That's all I have. Thanks. Thank you very much. Councilmember Now.
Thank you. Summertime is an opportunity to go to the pool. Our swim center is an asset to our community, but there is issues, and they have been coming to the city council as form as questions from the public about the wear and tear because it's an older facility. And I want to let you know that as the liaison to the Park and Recs Commission, the restrooms and locker rooms, the staff recognizes the facility constraints and are in the process of working with the contractor to do an assessment of the locker rooms and restrooms in the swim center. An assessment will allow us an opportunity to see how we can renovate to meet the current needs of our swimmers, especially our swim teams. The pool improvements. We are excited that the replastering of the pool was approved in this year's budget. Thank you, City Council. This project will be completed during our fiscal year this month, July 2023, through next year, June 2024. And the city staff is aware that this is a long time coming, so patience is a virtue. And they have been working with the operators on the pool covering schedules and the boilers. That's what makes the water warm. That the temperature will remain during the winter months since it's been repaired. So the temperatures will be at the correct temperature during the winter months for those who swim. And the maintenance, staff will work with the pool maintenance team and our pool operators on addressing any needs that are not being met at the swim center. If you see a maintenance issue, please bring it to the city's attention, either through the city council, the city clerk, or the Parks and Recs director. Training. Staff has been working with the city aquatics operators since 2021 on increasing training opportunities and oversight of lifeguards. During the summer sessions of 2021 and 2022, staff coordinated with the American Red Cross Aquatic Examiner Service to identify any gaps in training and operations the swim center. Both reports allowed staff to work with the operators on training opportunities and areas of improvement. So we're working to do the best and have the best lifeguards at that facility. And thank you for all that have emailed and reached out about our city pool. And we'll try to address them promptly. Events happening in Petaluma. Councilmember Shribs mentioned our newly released Petaluma magazine. It's written like a magazine, not like just a directory to Petaluma. So it's got some insight to a lot of local establishments, events, and some of the events coming up are the Rivertown Revival on this Saturday and Sunday, the Downtown Sidewalk Sales next week, and on the 29th, the Petaluma Music Festival will be held at the fairgrounds, and all the benefits go to the Petaluma Music in the Schools program. And I'd like to shout out and thank you and to every individual and group that made the Montero Studios that Councilmember Shribs mentioned a reality. This is a wonderful facility for our shelterless residents. Real quickly, I'd like to make a PSA announcement regarding the police training happening at Petaluma Junior High tomorrow. Last week there was some training, and they're training from 7 in the morning to 5 p.m. Simulating violence that might happen and how that would react. So you might hear some loud noises. The neighbors are concerned, and Nixle supposedly went out. I did not receive one, but I investigated through the police department and the fire department that this is a training process. There will be no real ammunition, just the sound. And I also wanted to say for all the residents here that have the mobile homes, I visited the Little Hills Mobile Home Park today and was met by the on-site manager and the Stockton manager of the management of the park owner. I found it very nice that I could take a tour of the park, and I compliment the residents for doing a really wonderful job with their landscaping. I was very impressed. So that's my report, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you very much. Vice Mayor Cater Thompson.
Thank you very much. I did not attend the Planning Commission on Zoom, but I did watch it. So they were just talking about procedures and how a Planning Commission actually works and facilitates its process. But I will watch it fully on because it's been recorded. I was on also the Know Before You Grow Zoom, but when you went into the breakouts, then I got off of that. But I did hear quite a few comments and appreciated that. Youngstown, I just want to talk about Youngstown Mobile Home Park. Today they got kind of a devastating letter that's, basically it's possibility to notice a potential closure of the mobile home park. And this seems to me elder abuse, to be threatening, taking away somebody's ability to live in their own home. And so I know that this council will absolutely take this seriously, and I'm looking forward to hearing more about the letter, reading it in more depth and talking with our city attorney on it. As far as the pool, Karen, I appreciate you bringing up that the pool is going to be renovated, because we are hearing a lot of complaints from the residents. But while you're talking about the big pool, maybe we can get the Kavanaugh pool also renovated. And if that can't be renovated, maybe we could at least get an updated water system there, because the water fountain is really unusable, and that's just really not acceptable. So at least if we could just get that one piece. And I will give a shout out to my husband, got his lifeguarding license, so Kavanaugh pool could stay open. And he actually was at the large pool one day also. And he's in his 70s, and he passed the test with ease, and he plans on taking it again. So we can have lifeguards. And there's a shout out to other people. If you want to get your lifeguard license, it's really important. We could certainly use you in this community. And with that, I'm going to end my comment because I'm on vacation and looking forward to the rest of the meeting. Thanks.
Councilmember Healy.
Thank you. So I attended a Board of Directors meeting for the League of California Cities in Orange County last Thursday and Friday, and I just wanted to report back on a few of the highlights. One bill to keep your eye on is AB 1657. It is likely to result in a $10 billion housing bond on the March 2024 ballot, the presidential primary. And to give you an idea of how that would break down, it would be $5.25 billion for multifamily housing, $1.75 billion for supportive housing, $1.5 billion for preserving or rehabilitating existing housing, $1 billion for a Cal Home down payment program, and $500 million for farm worker housing. So that's exciting. $10 billion is a lot of money, but when you spread it across California, comes nowhere close to meeting the need. So, it's baby steps. That's what we can do. So that's one piece of news. You may have heard that there were a whole flurry of fentanyl-related bills that died in the Assembly Public Safety Committee. 3 of them are now moving forward after a lot of pressure that was made. So the League is pleased with that, although we'd like to see more activity in that space. It turns out the California Department of Housing and Community Development is required to submit a report to the legislature by the end of this year with possible changes to the RHNA process. Cal Cities is having input into that, so that is something to keep an eye on, and we may see changes to the RHNA process going forward for the next cycle. There was a huge amount of discussion on the Business Roundtable Initiative, which is headed to the November 2024 ballot as an initiative measure. The good news is it's beatable. There's polling on that. The ballot summary for that measure provided by the Attorney General is extremely favorable to the no side, to say the least. But we can't take this for granted. It's going to take a serious campaign and serious fundraising to make sure this terrible initiative doesn't get passed. And then finally, I'll note that, and Mr. Danley might be more familiar with this than I am, but the Ninth Circuit recently denied an en banc review of its decision in the Grants Pass, Oregon case, which I believe expanded and extended its earlier City of Boise decision. And the City of Grants Pass has now announced it's going to seek U.S. Supreme Court review. And that has to do with city's ability to move homeless folks off of parks and playgrounds and things of that nature. So we'll see where that one goes. And then I'm going to color outside the lines a little bit here, Mr. Mayor, and ask if the city attorney could possibly speak after city manager comments and just talk to the audience here, or I believe we're all here, mostly here for agenda item 3, and give some context to what we're doing tonight with our second reading of the mobile home park space rent stabilization program, and how that plays into some of the saber rattling we've been getting from some of the park owners. Thank you.
That'll work for you at that time?
I'll be happy to do that, and when that comes up in that sequence. Thank you,
Perfect.
Council.
Thank you. And Councilmember Barnacle.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I also attended the K-Big event last week, or Know Before You Grow event, as did all the other council members. I also attended Petaluma Conversations. It's an event at the library that focuses on helping people feel understood and active listening. There'll be a new series kicking off in August, and I highly encourage everybody to try that if you haven't. It's really a great opportunity to go meet people in the community and just practice good listening and feel great at the end of it. The other thing I wanted to acknowledge is my condolences to the person who was killed on Sonoma Mountain Parkway. My heart goes out to that person's family. My heart goes out to the woman and the family that was driving the minivan. And I want to extend my deepest sincere concern for all of the first responders who are involved in that as well. And I hope everybody's taking care of themselves and doing what they need to process the incident. Also, considering we've adopted a Vision Zero policy, I'm very interested to know at a future meeting what we're doing with respect to rapid response on this issue. Part of Vision Zero is when you do have a fatality, that there's an acknowledgement that it's a failure of infrastructure. And so I'm interested to know what our failure was, and on the infrastructure side, and what we're going to do about it, and hopefully not have this happen again. With that, I will wrap up my public comments and turn it over to you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you very much, and I very much appreciate your mentioning the incident and all of our concerns for all of the parties involved. I appreciate you bringing that up. This has been a little bit of a busy week. I attended the city's skate park design public meeting, and they have the consultant back, being very responsive to the needs of that particular user group, and it's moving forward well. I attended the zoning overlay meeting, as was noted, did nearly the entire council. And then probably the highlight was the ribbon cutting of the Montero permanent supportive care facility, because it not only shelters formerly homeless persons, but it provides them care. And that's the big distinction. And I'd like to recognize staff's hard work. I mean, it hustled through in like incredible time. Once the state said they had money, we said we had the energy. City said they had the energy. So big kudo to staff, and then shout out to Councilmember Pozike for all the efforts put in at the Continuum of Care, the County Homelessness Board, that helps make all the good things come towards Petaluma. But noting those three meetings, and then also this week, the active transportation meeting, that's Cool Cities is co-sponsoring at the Shed on Wednesday at 7, that's July 19th, I think it's Wednesday at 5:30. I just want to note to the public the effort that staff is putting out to complete things, but also to make them transparent in presentation and allowing feedback, not just at council meetings, which we all know go too late in the night and don't have enough opportunity, but at these other meetings where the city staff is doing such great outreach into the community. So big shout of appreciation for staff's understanding of what Petalumans really want. And with that, concludes my report for tonight. Moving over to the city manager.
Thank you, Mayor, Council, and community. I just want everybody put on their calendar, among all the events that Councilmember Now mentioned, is our Petaluma Night Out for this year. It's going to be Wednesday, August 2nd from 4 to 7 at the fairgrounds. That is going to be our first responders, our nonprofits, our city staff. There'll be free food and activities and games, and a great way to get prepared for emergency preparedness. 'Tis the season, and just a great way to meet your city staff and hang out with us, eat some food, and bring your family. So that is, again, Wednesday, August 2nd from 4 to 7. And I also would like to recognize tonight is our city clerk, Kendall Sawyer's last council meeting, and I want to thank her so very much for taking us to the next level. As Petaluma grows, you have certainly helped us build a professional city clerk office and staff, and we're really forever grateful for you, and want to give you a small token of our And that concludes my comments. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Danley.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So, as has been noted on the consent calendar, is the second reading of the amendments which the council has introduced to our mobile home rent stabilization regulations. And we anticipate the council taking that action to adopt those. Here to answer any questions if the council has them, and that would mean that those would take effect 30 days after tonight. But as a reminder, the action that the council already took by urgency ordinance to put in effect sooner the new cap on the permitted annual rent increase is already in effect by urgency ordinance, and that ordinance will be replaced by the regular ordinance that's on for second reading tonight. So that's with respect to that. The council has received, I think, members have received, staff have received communications from our mobile home park tenants indicating that notices of potential conversion have been provided by two of the city's mobile home parks, Little Woods, and also, Youngstown, thank you. Sorry, I'm blanking on that. And we're reviewing that. We've also been reviewing the mobile home residency law, the city's regulations, and in particular, the city's regulations that are govern park conversion, because it looks like some of the notices imply that the conversion process is not necessarily difficult and is in the control of the park owners, but it is subject to council approval. So I wanted to touch briefly on what the conversion requirements in the city's regulations are, so that people are aware of those, and also to indicate, and Peggy, if you have anything to add, feel free, that I believe we're going to be putting some additional information on our website about these regulations and what protections they offer to the city's mobile home park tenants, and the requirements that apply there. The other thing I will note is that we, as staff, have been reviewing what would be required in response to comments we heard from members of the public at the last council meeting, and also from some of the council members about a potential overlay that would apply. It would be a zoning amendment that would apply to the existing zoning for the city's mobile home parks, which are zoned exclusively for that use. The same is true with respect to the general plan land use designations for those properties. And looking at that timeline, so we can return with that, and the council can have an option of doing that before the latest rules or information about potential rules changes at the parks would become effective. And it looks like there's ample time for that. So, and again, I think we'll be working with the comms team to provide some additional information to members of the public to hopefully provide some clarity about that and reduce some of the stress that I know comes from receiving some of these communications and having lots of questions. I also encourage folks to share information with us as they have. It's helpful. It helps us be responsive. We're seeing some really good responsiveness and helpful information that's being provided by GMSOL Legal Counsel and addressing some of these same topics. So, and we can certainly have further conversations with them in response to other things we may see or community members may raise that is of concern to our mobile home residents. So, regarding the city's mobile home park conversion regulations, they're in Chapter 8.34 of the Municipal Code, which is online. Those regulations note that in accordance with the Government Code Section 65863.7 and Civil Code Section 798.56, the city is authorized to regulate transition from, in the process from transitioning mobile home park uses to other uses, and that's the purpose of the chapter. Some key parts of that I will touch on, and as I mentioned, we'll include some of this information on our website, that park owners who are proposing to convert the use of their parks are required to, well, in our case, they'd be required to apply for both a general plan amendment and a zoning amendment, which are, I'm going to emphasize this, those are discretionary actions. They're not of right of the applicant. And they also have to provide a relocation impact report, which is a very detailed report concerning the potential the relocation impacts, potential relocation impacts of a park conversion. Those details are in section 8.34.050. The city selects a consultant to prepare the report at the applicant's expense upon notice, which also of their intent to do that conversion. Notice is also provided to the park residents in accordance with the city's regulations. The council is required to conduct a noticed hearing on the proposed relocation. And I'm going to read this part, which is key. This is in section 8.34.080, paragraph C. This section specifies findings that the council is required to make under these regulations in order to approve a conversion. And paragraph C says this: if the city council is unable to make findings consistent with section 8.34.090, and that regards findings of the impact of the relocation and how that may result in disruption of residents' housing, and is unable to impose reasonable measures as provided in section 8.34.100 to mitigate the adverse impacts of relocation, the city council shall deny the application for the proposed conversion, closure, or cessation of use. No other permit or approval shall be granted in furtherance of the proposed conversion, and no change of use, including cessation or closure, shall occur unless a relocation impact report has been approved. And the relocation assistance that the council may order in accordance with the regulations when it can make the findings and it does approve a conversion can include such things as payment of relocation assistance to each resident, payment of the cost of physically moving the mobile home to a new site, payment of a lump sum to compensate for payment of the first and last month rent to a new park, payment of a lump sum to compensate for any differential between rental rates for the first year of a new tenancy. For tenants, the cost may include all reasonable expenses incurred in moving to a new location up to a distance of 50 miles away. And for homeowners who are unable to reasonably relocate their mobile home, payment for fair market value for their home. So these requirements are on the books, they're in effect, they're authorized in state law, and we'll be providing more information on the city's website, and we'll be providing further information, and it'll be public if the council chooses to move forward with the hearing process that will be required to consider a possible overlay to make the parks age restricted in the zoning that applies to those parks. Thank you. Council will be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Hopefully that, I appreciate having that input, and appreciate Councilmember Healy for initiating that. And hopefully that expedites a little of the public's concerns and maybe the progress of the meeting through the evening. But that does move us to our consent calendar. Our consent calendar tonight is items 1 through 10, less item 5, which was moved to August 7th. And it is typical that we look up and down the dais to see if any items wish to be removed from consent. And generally not moving them from consent means that all questions have been answered prior. But I see we have a hand up on council, and so the vice mayor wishes to weigh in.
This is just on consent item number 4. I'm going to be supporting it tonight, but there was a letter from Ellen Obstler, and I would just like to get a response, from our city attorney on what this really means, what she wrote. It doesn't have to be right now. It can just be another time.
And are you prepared at this time to make a comment on the public input from?
I'm not, because I haven't seen that, unfortunately, and I don't know if I was sent it, but.
And would that be something that the vice mayor would accept as follow-up information?
No, that I think I said that, otherwise follow up.
Wonderful.
Absolutely. Yes.
Okay.
So we can just move on.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
And we try and make sure that any council concerns are all sorted before we go to the public comment, because we'll come back and have a motion and just Okay, so then we'll go to the public comment on the consent calendar, items 1 to 10, except 5. And I have 10 cards here for people who wish to speak to this item. And may we read the Zoom announcement to see how many hands will arise there?
Members of the public attending in person should bring their speaker cards to the clerk's desk if they have not already done so. Members of the public attending online who wish to speak to an item on the consent calendar should raise their virtual hand or press *9 if participating by phone. Mayor, we currently have 1 hand raised.
Wonderful, thank you. We'll begin our public comment tonight with the in-house folks. I'd like to invite Catherine Babowski to speak first, Martin Contreras to follow. And I apologize, at 11, we'll be at 2 minutes for our speaking time this evening. Thank you.
The Little Woods Villa Mobile Park. First, I'd like to mention these mobile homes there cannot be moved. Once they're settled in, they cannot be moved. They'll fall apart. And also, too, Harmony Community are greedy people. There's lawsuits filed against them statewide. They got criminal records. Don't let these people get away with what they're doing. They've been taking our rent money, putting it in their pockets, and not maintaining the park. They don't do repairs because they're pocketing our rent money into their pockets, making a profit. They got a house there at Space 77. They're selling for $295,000. And once a person buys that home there on Space 77, they're going to charge $1,200 a month for rental space. And that's not including utilities. Stop allowing these greedy people, Harmony Community, get away with this. Put a stop to it. This is our home. So don't let them get away with this. Thank you.
Thank you. Martin Contreras to be followed by Angela Cruz.
Hi, City Council. Thank you for the clarification earlier. It's very appreciated. My name is Martin Contreras, and I'm a tenant of Little Woods Mobile Villa, and here to speak about the potential closure of Little Woods Mobile Villa. In conversations with tenants at Little Woods, other tenants of mobile home parks throughout Sonoma County, and organizers, we feel that there's retaliation against tenants due to the amending of the mobile home park space rent stabilization program. Because of this amendment, Harmony Communities, the group that oversees our park, has informed us that they are going to seriously consider closing down the park. Tenants at Little Woods and mobile home parks throughout the county are now feeling the urgency of facing potential displacements in a town and community that is getting less and less affordable. Harmony Community is inviting us to meetings and are not providing interpretation or translated handouts. Given the fact that this mobile home park is predominantly Hispanic speaking, we feel that this is unjust. They also did not provide a Spanish translated letter of the potential closure that they sent out. They didn't provide any direct contact info in that letter. There's a site manager that knows the population and demographic, so there's no excuse for them not providing those materials or interpreters. These are just some of the ways they're being intentionally unjust and keeping us in the dark. We are humans and not a business, and they're treating us like a business. We're asking that you make sure to follow up with local landlords and make sure they're being just and fair to everyone who live there, because they're our homes. Thank you.
Thank you. Angela Cruz to be followed by Kay Poland.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Angeles Cruz, and I'm a resident at Little Woods Mobile Villa, which is on Lakeville Highway across from Sheraton. Thank you for all the clarifications today. I have lived at this mobile home park for decades now. I've been in the area, gone to Miwok, gone to Casa Grande. Nice to see you as a council member, Dr. Shribs. The clarifications were great, and I, as someone who has worked in the city in homeless services and in housing, as you all have mentioned, right, is a huge issue in Petaluma and in this county. Although this is great news, Petaluma is becoming, more expensive as time goes up, and inflation and all those conversations. And Little Woods is one of the only places where seniors, people that are retired, people that are low income, people on SSI, SSDI are able to afford. Even if we do relocate somewhere else, because honestly, homelessness is a really big thing that's probably going to happen to a lot of the folks here. There's a huge overflow if you don't, well, not a huge, but there's an overflow of people even in the hallway, and we will continue to show up. This issue will continue impacting the city. Hopefully, the park won't close, and I appreciate all the clarifications and the support of you all. But this is all to say, right, that although there may be things to protect us, and we're super excited about that, it is really realistically important to understand that those are also going to impact the community that live there, right? For example, me, I have lived in Petaluma for decades. To relocate elsewhere, where, right, we know there's almost no low-income housing, it's hard to get into places to make 3 times the rent. Overcrowding is huge.
Thank you. Kay Paulen, to be followed by Jody Johnson. Thank you. Jody Johnson, to be followed by Darrell Pike.
Before I begin my comments, I would like to profoundly thank the work of the city employees, the city attorneys, the housing, the outreach, the city management, and the entire city council. You showed us your character and that senior citizens in Petaluma matter in the adoption tonight of all the much-needed mobile park rent stabilization revisions and protections. As you can see, this meeting tonight is full of mobile park owner residents. Today, we received notification from Youngstown of the potential closing of the park dated July 7th. The hard copy did not arrive in the mail until 5:45 p.m. this evening. Early this morning, before we were noticed, the consultant came to the door to get the info the park owners are gathering for the assessment report that they had already noticed at Littlewoods. We told her no one was noticed yet. She stated that she was told we were noticed over a week ago with Littlewoods. We told her we were only noticed previously on them trying to convert the park to all ages. She chose to leave since we weren't noticed, and then we saw her talking to the manager of the park. We walked around to calm people's fears, some already in deep distress. One crying. One senior asked why they were doing this to their partners. We had not thought of it that way. We are their partners. We own the manufactured homes and they own the land. This retaliation is not being done against the city for voting for us. They are targeting the very seniors themselves. Our advocacy is resulting in retaliation that knows no bounds and being done to seniors of every age with a multitude of health issues. I wonder if a senior citizen has a heart attack or a stroke over this stress, if that will even matter to the park owners. Business that resorts to these tactics against senior citizens is morally wrong. We are.
Thank you very much. Time has expired. Darrell Pike, to be followed by Jay Stewart.
Thank you. I'm here to represent Littlewoods Mobile Villa, and I've been living there for 33 years. Our mobile home is settled down. It cannot be moved. If it was to be moved, it'd fall apart. They have been charging us, there's 78 units there. They have been charging us $53.70 a month in trash, and that's coming out to $50,263.20 a year for us. They're making that kind of money. On their sewer costs, they're charging us $77,688 a year, and they're charging us $6,205.68 in property tax, their property tax. We have to pay our own taxes on our house, but now we're having to pay their property tax too. And their average rent is $850, which is allowing them to make $795,600 a year for all of the units. Adding up with all that cost is $920 $29,756.88. I think they're making plenty enough money. We don't need to be having our rent raised up, and they don't need to be closing down a park that's been there for over 60 years. We need our representatives of you guys to protect our backsides. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Please, let's save this. Let's keep our decorum together here. And Jay Stewart to be followed. Thank you. And then Betty Houghton-Rader to be followed by Peter Cherniff.
Good evening, council members and city staff. I just want to thank all of you for your continued efforts with this topic of the mobile homes, especially the rent stabilization program and the info that you provided tonight, Mr. Daly, as far as the conversion issues. I wasn't aware that there were any at the city level, so thank you. I'll be looking at that. We also look forward to you addressing the senior overlay zoning district in the future for the mobile home parks. But again, thank you all for your efforts.
Thank you. Peter Cherniff to be followed by Bob Hanson.
It sure was a hot day today. I just want to say thank you to Kendall for her professional, diplomatic, and caring kindness. I think a lot of people would agree with that. And I do humbly caution the City Council to not interrupt any speaker, as quite often appropriate relevance may not be found until the conclusionary words. That's what I request. So here in Petaluma, we all agree that no one group shall be marginalized and manipulated for financial gain. And that Petaluma has such high rents that even our law enforcement and firefighters can't afford to live here. So what's going on? We got, at this place, you got veterans, you got seniors, you got migrant labor and families. And I believe that we are in a war in this nation, and all wars are banker wars, and all wars are based on lies. And there was a fellow named Malcolm X, he says, power never steps back except in the face of a greater power. And that greater power of the people that we all have, that we all possess, that the system doesn't want us to acknowledge, is the power that will actually free you to do your jobs even better. And that is the general strike the system into submission and open up the doors to a promise of America where there's beautiful gardens, where things are much better all the way around, that we're not dominated by bankers and their lawyerly minions, and that we are here to be humbly thankful to the U.S. Constitution, our veterans that put their lives on the line, our migrant labor that feeds this nation, and those of us that are trying to do the best we can to emerge like a beautiful butterfly from this insanity that has been running in this country, as the last president we really did have was John F. Kennedy, and those are the sort of things he talked about, and we should all embrace this mindset. Thank you, and have a beautiful evening.
Thank you. And Bob Hanson is our last in-house speaker, and we'll go to Zoom after that.
Good evening, everybody. To everybody, I wish the very best in health and spirit. Eviction is a tool used to quell the dissent of the public. 2016, I expressed my concerns on California's lack of voter ID and provisional ballot. I was terminated as a precinct inspector. My precinct, the Salvation Army Senior Center, was eliminated as a voting precinct. I was evicted from the Salvation Army apartments where I'd lived for 5 years. We see this going on in New York. Veterans, citizens of the United States being evicted out of their homes, out of their apartments. It's a tool used to quell the dissent of the public. Thank you.
Thank you. And now let's move to our Zoom audience.
Speakers are reminded to be respectful in their comments and that this meeting is being translated. Please pause between sentences for translation. Threats of violence and obscenity are grounds for removal from this meeting. A countdown will appear for the convenience of the speaker and viewers. Your microphone will be muted at the end of that countdown. The first speaker will be acknowledged and invited to speak when the countdown begins. Please make sure to unmute yourself when invited to do so. Our first speaker will be Bill F. Bill, you may now unmute and begin to speak.
Yes, thank you very much. I'm Bill Finney, the owner of the cottages in Petaluma. Per my numerous emails to the council, park owners' concern is that unfortunately the proposed ordinance amendments are based on an error-riddled staff report and presentation. The problem is compounded by a false sense of urgency in passing these changes in the ordinance. Obviously, the council's goal is to make an informed decision. Therefore, we are requesting a 60-day extension to properly research the history of the ordinance and the unintended consequences of the proposed changes. Since these changes will impact thousands of people for decades to come, it is imperative that the council is properly informed. Common sense dictates that reducing park owners' income by 30% per annum will be disastrous, and it will force owners to initiate the expensive and adversarial rental arbitration process. Although the staff failed to inform the council of the results of past arbitration, approximately half of them, 3 of 7 specifically, resulted in awards of rent increases between $150 and $650 per month. The staff also failed to disclose that the excessive cost of this litigation was a contributing factor to the city's layoff of staff, police, and fire personnel during the last recession. This is hardly the safety valve that it was characterized by the staff. Additionally, the report failed to disclose the impact of the onerous vacancy control element of the ordinance. The average cost of the mobile homes in rent-controlled communities in Petaluma is just slightly less than $250,000. And unfortunately,
Thank you, Bill. Your time has ended. Mayor, an additional member of the public has raised their hand. Would you like to give them the opportunity to speak?
Please do.
Our next speaker will be Nick. Nick, you may now unmute and begin to speak. Nick, you may now unmute and begin to speak.
Are you there?
Yes, we can hear you.
Great. My name is Nick. I'm with Little Woods Mobile Villa. I'm here to express the profound disappointment felt by mobile home park owners regarding your failure to work collaboratively to find a solution that benefits all parties involved, the city, the residents, and the business owners. The residents themselves should share in this disappointment. It is truly disheartening to witness this progressive council enact laws that will ultimately harm the very people that they claim to assist. During the initial stages of this discussion, park owners presented a reasonable proposal to assist residents who genuinely face difficulties in paying rent increases while ensuring the effective operation of their business. This is of paramount importance to the residents, as it allows them to reside in a clean and well-functioning community. In order to do this, there needs to be reasonable rent increases that at the bare minimum keep pace with inflation. However, the council has chosen a path that seems to only have one objective in mind, the closure of these mobile home parks. I would also like to remind the council that they are bound by the Constitution of the United States of America. Business owners in this country have a constitutionally protected right to go out of business. As much as they would like to cram down draconian and progressive laws and then force business owners to keep their doors open, they cannot. Residents, I implore you to ask yourselves, if you truly desire artificially suppressing rents until the parks inevitably shut down, this is precisely what is happening here. In conclusion, I emphasize the deep disappointment felt by mobile home park owners and residents alike. It is regrettable to witness a council implementing laws that ultimately harm the very people they claim to support. I'd like to leave you all with a book recommendation. The title is San Francisco, Why Progressives Ruin Cities by gubernatorial candidate Michael Schellenberger. Thank you.
Mayor, there are no further comments.
Thank you very much. I'd like to close public comment for the evening for the consent calendar, bring it back to council. Councilmember Healy.
Yes, I would like to move the consent calendar items 1 through 4 and 6 through 10.
Thank you. Councilmember Pozike.
I'll second that motion.
Thank you. We're all good here, so we have a motion and a second, and I'd like the clerk to have a roll call vote for us tonight.
Barnacle,
Aye.
Cater Thompson,
Aye.
Healy,
Yes?
Now,
Yes.
Posake,
Yes.
and Tribs.
Yes.
Oh, McDonald.
Yes.
Thank you. And motion passes unanimously.
Thank you very much. Glad to get that last bit of news there. Yeah. That closes the consent calendar and that item for the evening. We're moving on to our next item. Thank you very much for attending. Apologies for it, government taking the process time it does. Thank you.
I was looking for you.
Moving on to our next item of the evening. It's item 11. It's a public hearing and resolution ordering abatement of nuisances consisting of weeds growing upon public and private property in the city of Petaluma and ordering the fire department to abate said weeds by contract if property owners do not do so. And tonight to present the item, Jessica Power, our fire marshal. Thank you. Excuse me 1 second, yes. And you have to be right on.
All right. Good evening, Madam Mayor, Vice Mayor, Council, staff, and community. On July 10th, the City Council approved a resolution which declared that weeds growing upon parcels of public and private property are a public nuisance requiring abatement. A public hearing was subsequently set for tonight to hear any objections to said declaration. On June 22nd, a letter was sent to the affected property owner alerting them of their right to attend this public hearing. This is part of the government code requirements that requires the City Council to provide a venue for property owners to voice their objections regarding the city's weed abatement program and how the properties are abated. This public hearing and subsequent resolution meets the intent of the law, which allows the fire department and its contractor to enter private property and force abatement of weed-related fire hazards if property owners fail to abate. Inspection of this newly identified lot will begin on July 18th. We would like to thank the Petaluma community for their diligence in abating their properties. As has been for almost a decade, over 90% of property owners abated their lot after receiving notice from the fire department this year. Thank you.
Thank you for the report. Any council comment? Then moving to public comment on the item. I have no cards. Perhaps, can we check to see if we had any prior comments?
We did not receive any public comments to this item.
Wonderful, thank you. Can we check with our Zoom audience?
Members of the public attending in person should bring their speaker cards to the clerk's desk if they have not already done so. Members of the public attending online who wish to speak on this item should raise their virtual hand or press *9 if participating by phone. Mayor, we have no members with their hands raised.
Thank you very much. Then I believe I'm bringing this public hearing to a close and bringing it back to council. Councilmember Healy?
Yeah, I'd like to move approval.
And Councilmember Pozike.
And I'll second. Oh, I'm sorry.
Appreciate that. We have a motion and a second. May we have a roll call vote?
Barnacle,
Aye.
Cater Thompson,
Yes.
Healy,
Yes.
Now,
Yes.
Posake,
Yes.
Shribs,
Yes.
and McDonald.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. We appreciate the efficiency of the item. And item 12, public hearing to receive public comment, amend the engineer's report as appropriate, and resolution ordering the improvements, confirming the engineer's report and levying annual assessments for landscape assessment districts for fiscal year 23-24. And I'd like to bring back to the podium tonight Christopher Bolt, Director of Public Works and Utilities.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. I have Cindy Chong with us as well. We both work hard to manage the LADs here in our community. You want to load the presentation? I think there's 50 LADs, 3 slides per LAD. Is that what we have?
So we're just going to take an hour and a half this evening.
Well, I'll just read all this then. No. So there are a lot of LADs. I think that joke helps to punctuate just how much is involved. And we do recognize that there are issues. So with 50 LADs, 43 of which are actively assessed and maintained each year. We do this dance each year at this time because there is a cost of living adjustment within the LADs back when they were created. So as required by the California Streets and Highway Code, City Council must initiate a process to set the annual assessments for the LADs and assure sufficient funds are provided. We do recognize that some of the LADs are not financially sustaining themselves, so I just wanted to highlight that Cindy and I have been working with other team members as we embark on a process to inventory and audit each and every LAD, working with our finance department and our contractor actually in a unique partnership to figure out what it should take to complete the scope of work prescribed for each of the districts. So you will see changes coming. That is a monumental effort. It could take 2 to 3 years to complete, but we're picking the worst of the bunch first and then migrating to a second batch in the coming months and I hate to say years, but it's likely to be at least a 2-year process while we go through things. As is often said, as we talk as staff, we didn't break it, but we're trying to fix it. So bear with us as we try to address those concerns. So it is recommended this evening that LADs with annual levies that do not meet their annual estimated costs be increased by the 2% allowable annual levy limit. And that is the case for 32 of the 50 LADs. And with that, we're happy to answer any questions.
I'd like to bring it back to council for any questions on the topic. And seeing none, that is a wonderful report. And I'd like to open it to public comment. Do we have any public comment prior to the meeting?
No, we did not receive any public comment for this item.
Thank you very much. I have no cards here. Let's check our Zoom audience.
Members of the public attending in person should bring their speaker cards to the clerk's desk if they have not already done so. Members of the public attending online who wish to speak to this item should raise their virtual hand or press star 9 if participating by phone. Mayor, we have no hands raised at this time.
Thank you very much. I'd like to close the public hearing then and bring it back to council. And I think we're looking for a motion. Councilmember Healy?
We're going to need a series of motions.
We are going to need a series of motions tonight, aren't we?
The one that we can all participate in is the resolution attached is attachment 1, and I will move attachment 1.
Thank you very much. We have a motion for the no recusal item, and do we have a second for that? Councilmember Now has a second for that, and a roll call vote, please.
Barnacle,
Aye.
Cater Thompson,
Yes.
Healy,
Yes.
Now,
Yes.
Posake,
Yes.
Shribs,
Yes.
and McDonald.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you very much. Now we'll move to the motion where Councilmember Barnacle is recused. And so, and all the recusals are because of proximity by one of the council's properties. And we'll go through several of these just to be sure that we have the right separation and recusals. So we are moving to the Barnacle resolution. Councilmember Healy?
Yeah, I will move approval of the resolution attached as attachment 2.
Thank you very much. Councilmember Now with a second. And a roll call vote, please.
Barnacle?
That was-
Oh, recuse, excuse me. Cater Thompson?
Yes.
Healy?
Yes.
Now?
Yes.
Posake?
Yes.
Shribs?
Yes.
And McDonald?
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. The next recusal is to, well, first invite Councilmember Barnacle back into the room, and then to have Councilmember Now recused and leaving the room. Thank you. And so when we do have our participant out of the room, we'll invite Councilmember Posake to, so moved?
I'll move the motion.
Thank you very much. Councilmember Healy has a second there?
Yeah, this is a second for a resolution attached as attachment 4, I believe. We skipped 3 for now. That'll be the fun one.
Yes. And that's our script for tonight. So may we have a roll call vote, please?
Barnacle?
Aye.
Cater Thompson?
Yes.
Healy?
Yes.
Posake?
Yes.
Shribs?
Yes.
And McDonald?
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Wonderful. Let's invite Councilmember Now back into the room and move to the Shribs recusal item. And see if we can get a motion and associated exhibit number with that. Councilmember Healy?
Thank you. I will move approval of the resolution attached as attachment 5.
And Councilmember Now has a second. Thank you very much. Roll call vote.
Barnacle?
Aye.
Cater Thompson?
Aye.
Healy?
Yes.
Now?
Yes.
Posake?
Yes.
And McDonald?
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
And I will invite Councilmember Shribs back into the room, and we'll move to the item where I, McDonald, will be recusing. And I believe we will pass the baton to the Vice Mayor to run this piece, and also to offer the adjournment for the evening at the end of that motion.
Thank you. So do we have a motion for number?
Madam
Let's
Vice
see.
Mayor, I'd be
It's-
happy to move approval of
Thank
the
you.
resolution attached as attachment 3.
Perfect. Second, Karen?
I'll second.
Councilmember Now. Councilmember Now. And we have a vote, please.
Barnacle?
Aye.
Cater Thompson?
Aye.
Healy?
Yes.
Now?
Yes.
Posake?
Yes.
And Shribs?
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Great, thank you. And I guess that is the end. So I'm going to make a motion. We're going to close the meeting. And good night, everybody.
Aye.